Hey everyone, good evening. Episode 33, Talking Shop with Outlier Firefighters. I am Alex Tanner. I am here with Lieutenant Billy Navarro from Buffalo Grove Fire Department. Billy, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. This is going to be a fun time.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So Billy and I had breakfast like a couple days ago, which I usually don't get the opportunity to do that with people before I have them on, and it was pretty sweet to sit down and off the off the show,
I,
uh,
I think I
figure
think we
each
could have
other
done
out.
another 2 hours there.
We could have.
You know,
Oh yeah, we definitely could have. And I guess that's what this is for. So
right?
we can just roll with that. So I mentioned Lieutenant with Buffalo Grove, um, and we're gonna just kind of get into where you come from and your background in the fire service. So first question is a pretty simple one, but it's where did you get first exposed to the fire service?
So for the fire service, I was first exposed for living in the city. You know, you don't have a lot of exposure back in the day. So I grew up in the early '80s, and they don't have the opportunities they have now. Which in schools you can get some fire training, and they didn't have that back then. So my experience was seeing the guys rolling down the street with the guys on the tailboard, waving to them every time they went by. So I really thought that was something fun to do, watching them guys drive by. And I was like, man, that's something I'd love to do. But like I said, growing up in the city, there just wasn't many options as to getting training or anything like that. So as time went on, I ended up doing, as soon as I got out of high school, I really didn't want to do college. So I ended up getting in the union to become an electrician. And as time went on, my wife knew that I still wanted to pursue something in the fire service. So one day I came home and I thought she left this newsletter out, and in the newsletter it said become a PLC firefighter. I'm like, for the village of Lansing. I'm like, man, that'd be awesome to do something like that. And so when she came home, I'm like, hey, thanks for putting this out. I'm thinking about going to apply. She's like, I didn't leave it out for you. She's like, it was just there. So I was like, oh, okay, great. So I went and applied for the POC job in 2001, early 2001. I applied for it and I got in, and they said they would cover everything. They'd give me my EMTB and they would get me my firefighter two at the time. So I'm doing a full-time job. I'm going nights for EMTB, and I'm going nights after that for my firefighter two. I did it through the Tinley Park Academy. And then for EMTB, I went to South Suburban College, or I'm sorry, South Suburban Hospital. And I ended up getting through there and started my POC with the Village of Lansing, which was a great time. Great guys. At the time, it was kind of a mix of younger and older guys. Learned a lot from the older guys, but it was the younger guys I hung out with. And as time went on, they went out to test for full time. And I said, heck with it, I'm going to try for it. And the good thing about Lansing was you only had to be EMTB to take the test. So I took the test, scored number 7, didn't think I was going to get hired. Somehow or another, that list got to me. And they ended up paying for my paramedic. So I did my first year, and they paid for my paramedic. And it was great because it would have been really hard for me if I wanted to try to get it through um, working full time as electrician. So I ended up getting full time. I ended up actually as a POC, I ended up getting my engineering. So I became an engineer by title, not rank. Then I got full time. I got my paramedic and spent about 2 years full time there, 4 years part time, so POC. And then one of the guys there called me up one day and he's like, "Hey, that was on there. His name is Jimmy Vickerman. He's from the north side, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna go test. You want to just go and test around?" So him and I started testing, and he's like, let's go test for Buffalo Grove. I go, I have no idea where Buffalo Grove is. So you'll have to show me. So him and I went out there. Once again, I scored decently. I scored, 13th on their list, not thinking I was going to get it. And one day I got called. And all of a sudden, the opportunity came up because he was number 10, I was 13. And when it came to me, it was like, okay, I was like, Jimmy, I'm not going to get it. He's like, well, they just called me and I'm going to turn it down because he went to Lockport. So he's like, you're going to take it if they call you? I was like, well, I'll see what happens when they call. So I went in for an interview and I didn't think nothing of it. And I also was in the process with Orland and Evanston. So I'm sitting there with the two deputy chiefs, and they're like, "Hey, what's stopping you from going there?" I'm like, "You guys hire me first. I don't want to do this again. I'm 31 years old, or at the time I'm 33 years old. I don't want to do it again. So if you guys hire me now, I'm just going to stick with you. He goes, you do realize that when we're done with this, you will be, we'll hire you if you pass everything. I'm like, no, I didn't know that. So they offered me the job. I ended up getting on, and it was pretty awesome because majority of the department, so 75% of the department had 15 years or more when I got on. So it was really weird because even though I'm older at the time, I'm 33, I was a young guy, and me and Charlie Calder got hired on the same day on black shift, and it was all guys 15 years or more. So when I ended up getting there, I ended up at Station 25 with Lieutenant Wendy Durkin, who was awesome. She was my first mentor for Buffalo Grove when I got there, and she helped me get through my first 3 months, 4 months, and then like I said, it was really nice because I had a lot of older guys looking out for me. So when I got in there was guys always there trying to help me out, trying to get me through. The only problem is that with the older group of guys, the training wasn't there at that time. So like when they were doing, like, well, we got to throw ladders today. They're like, we don't really feel like doing it. I'm like, well, I want to do it because, I haven't done it with you guys yet. And they're like, oh, you're good. You know how to do it. I'm like, yeah, I know how to do it. But, repetition makes me confident. And so as time went on, I felt that now is the time to, step up it with training. So if I wanted something, I had to ask for something. So my first full year, I ended up with Lieutenant Bills, Wendell Bills, who was amazing. Now my second mentor. And when I went with Lieutenant Bills, all he did was training. So he would take me out every day after dinner and said, hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. And it'd just be him and I. And we ended up getting really close. But the funny part about it was the first day I worked for him was um, what 2006, I believe it was 2007, 2008, January of 2008. And when I went over there to work for him, he was just riding me the first day. He's just riding me, hitting me. And I'm like, man, it's a holiday and you're just beating on me. And I remember there was another senior guy and he goes, hey man, lay off the kid. He's a good kid. I worked with him last year. He's like, I'll do what I want to do. And I guess he was testing me to see what I was made of. And um, I'm very shy at times and very laid back, but with him, it was like, I want to stand up for myself. But then again, he was my supervisor. So I just kind of rolled with it and I worked my tail off for him to prove that I can do this job. And him and I ended up becoming really good friends. To this day, he's been retired over 7 years. We're still good friends. And regardless of what other people think of him, I loved him because he took the time and the energy to always make sure I knew what I was doing. He was the type of leader that I would make a mistake, he'd pull me in the office, close the door, and he would never embarrass me. And he would pull me in the office and say, hey, this is what happened on the call. This is what's going on. This is what I expect of you from now on. And I'm like, thank you, thank you, Lou. I appreciate it. That really means a lot to me. And he was like, just do better from here on out. And then after that, it was like water under the bridge. He would forget about it because he would expect me to do better from there. So I've been with BG now for 16 years. It's funny because on one of your earlier broadcasts, Sammy Vega talked about, being a mutt. You either start your career as a mutt, you can end your career as a mutt, but once you're considered a mutt, you're always a mutt. And through my training, through my, being in the fire service, through being electrical, I always felt that I had to be better. I know I'm not the smartest, fastest, or smartest, fastest, or strongest, but I know I have a lot of pride and I want to do very well in anything I do. So for me, I didn't want to just be a firefighter that was just there. I always wanted to do more. I always wanted to do a little more training if I could. I always wanted to be involved. I right away got involved with the union. I got involved with training. I got involved with technical rescue. So I was able to get on our technical rescue team my third year there. I wanted to, I was paying for my own classes for a while. And when I wanted to do ropes, I went to the TRT, or the guy who was in charge of TRT, Jeff Morris, and I was like, hey, Jeff, you know what? Can you get me in that class? I'll pay for it. He's like, no, you know what? How about if I put you on the team? I'm like, that'd be awesome. So he put me on the team. He really took care of me in terms of getting me on the team, making sure I had everything I needed. But it was great because I was doing all this training, and the hard part for me is I started at 31, 33. I started in Buffalo Grove. So I was always trying to play catch up with the young guys, and after me, a lot of young guys started coming in, and for me, I didn't want to seem like because I'm older, I should get a free pass. So I was trying to compete with them guys each and every day, and I felt that not only do I have to stay in shape and work out, but I have to be good as a firefighter and as a paramedic. So
I was going to ask that
start picking up.
actually.
I'm
If
sorry.
I was going to ask that actually, if being older as a probationary, then like typically people, I think 25 to 28 is like the average age of a new hire. And
Yeah.
if you noticed a difference in maybe how like other people treated you because you were a grown adult, like you had already gone through a lot of things, in terms of the trades, and we'll talk about that later. But
Yeah.
like you had life experience before, and I'm curious if maybe they picked up on that early on and maybe treated you differently,
I
or
think that's exactly what happened, Alex, because like I said, a lot of times me coming in there, being older, being on already a full-time department, I think they just assumed I knew everything, and it was funny, Alex, because when I went there, the the EMS system I came from the south side to the north side was totally different. They're much more aggressive on the north side, where on the south side, we're more of a Mother May I system. So when I went up there was a guy by the name of Glenn Bird, who's probably one of the best medics I've ever met. He's like, all right, Billy, my first day, he's like, let's talk about this a little bit. He goes, have you ever done a drug assisted intubation? I'm like, what is that? And then he's like going over some of the meds. I'm like, no. He's like, man, we got a lot of work ahead. So in a way, I was behind the eight ball starting there, but because of my age and my maturity and knowing like with the trades, I knew I already had a lot of expectations ingrained in me on what I need to do. I'm very prideful in my job and trying to do the best I can. I think they just assumed a lot and they kind of hurt me in a way because they just assumed it and I didn't get some of them trainings. And then, like I said, when I went to Lieutenant Bill's, he was just like, I don't care who you are, man. We're going to throw you into all these trainings. I'm going to get you as much as I can. And it was amazing because my third year with him, we ended up on a bunch of fires. And because who he was and everybody he knew, we always got great assignments. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, to answer your question, I was treated differently. They just assumed that a lot of times I knew all this. And it was like I only been in the fire service, full time two, part time add three or four more. So, it was up to me to say, you know what, I need these trainings. There was days I did it one time with one of my acting lieutenants. I'm like, hey, can we go over to we got what's called the CAF site. It's a combined area fire training area where we're with a bunch of different departments that we work in this training area. And I would ask him, you know what, let's go do the SCBA maze, and he's like, you want to go there and do that on a Sunday? I'm like, yeah, it's called confidence for a reason. I want to be a lot more confident in this SCBA pack. And he's like, okay, so, Joe Alexander would take me out there. He would train with me, we'd go over a few things. And he was like, man, I'm surprised you want to do this. I'm like, yeah, I have to. I want to be confident in my gear. So it was tough my first 2 years because, like you said, a lot of times I was assumed. It was assumed that I knew what I was doing, and it's like I do. I'm kind of confident in what I do, but I needed the training to back me up.
yeah,
So it was nice because, like I said, a lot of older guys took me under their wing and they gave me a lot of good talks. Hey, you need to remember this. Hey, you need to do that. We were on a fire one time. It was activated fire alarm, and as we pull up, it was me and a senior guy, one of the senior guys, and he wasn't really moving too well, too fast. And I move. Let's go, let's go, let's go. So I go up there. I was given assignment by command, and I forgot the Knoxbox keys, and I'm like, oh man, because we're on the ambulance together, and you always grab the Knoxbox keys and go. And so they're like, Billy, did you grab the Knoxbox keys? I'm like, no. And I'm like, oh man, So I run back, I get it, I go over there, do what we had to do. We come back, and my one of my big mentors, Larry Lazan, was like, hey man, he pulled me off to the side, and he's like, hey, I expect a lot more out of you. He goes, that's bread and butter stuff right there. He goes, I expect more out of you in the sense that you should have known what you're doing. And the other guy, we don't expect a lot out of him, but we expect a lot out of you. And I was only 3 years there at the time. And that's when I really realized that I need to step my game up. I need to make sure each and every time I have a good idea of what I'm doing, and two, bringing the right materials to the right calls.
yeah.
So yeah, it's been it was really weird for me, you know. I mean, I would have loved to get in earlier, but you know, doing the electrical thing was amazing for me. But yeah, starting off later in life was I feel it put me a little bit behind the eight ball because people just assume I knew what I was
Yeah,
doing.
no, I can see that. Like that would be when you're almost the same age as some of the people, you know what I mean? And they're probably used
Yeah,
to a 25, 22, whatever year old kid. It's a different world. And I mean, kudos to you for recognizing like that, hey, they're giving me opportunities because they trust me because I'm an adult already,
yeah.
and leaning into that. Not everybody recognizes those opportunities right away. And so that's a great thing, right? To be able to go, you know what? I got you. You're right. I do need to step my game up. That's
Yeah.
a great
And
thing to recognize.
it was nice because anytime I asked for something, I pretty much um, got it. You know, if I wanted to do a certain training, because a lot of times I paid for my own. So you remember we used to have firefighter two and firefighter three. I paid for my own firefighter three. I paid for a couple other classes because I wanted them, you know, and I was full of energy coming in at 33, 34. But it's kind of hard now with only, you know, I got 16 years there, 18 years full time because I brought my time over, but I'm kind of beat up. You know, I'm gonna be 50 this year, and I'm still trying to keep up. I still try to work out every duty day. Um, but I'm trying to keep up with these guys, and it's getting a little harder. We ran pretty much on the, you know, the calls ran just perfectly last night, and before, you know, I could get no sleep. I can go to training the next day. We had TRT training up in Division 4 and 5, and for TRT, and I was like, I told the guy at my back step because he is on the TRT too. I'm like, dude, I'm not going. He's like, what? I go, I'm tired. I got to go home and sleep. And I came home and sleep for 3 hours. Where before, when I first got on, yeah, it was no problem. But as I get older here, it's like, man, I'm starving for some sleep. So it's changed a little bit. And like I said, I'm still trying to compete with these guys. You know, the other day I was like, let's throw 24 and 28 foot ladders, you know, one man throws. And it's not as easy as it used to be, you know. So the body's working or moving a little slower now.
You just find a way to make it happen. I got a comment for you here in our chat too, by the way, from Larry Lazan, and he's saying it was obvious from the start that Billy had a great potential, and he sure lived up to those expectations. A lot of guys look up to him, and I mean it's painfully obvious, right? You bring an energy and just an awareness, right? And still going out and throwing ladders by yourself and doing
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, like that's that holds a lot of weight for people to see that stuff and to participate in it.
Yeah, and what I loved about Larry Lazan, so one of the things that happens when you get into an older department as a younger guy in the career part of it, not age, but career. Larry Lazan was the one that said when as soon as you get 5 years, you need to test for lieutenant, regardless if you want to be a lieutenant or not. He goes, you got to get your mindset. You got to get your mindset to take the test, learn the test, and then when you really want to do it, you do it. And that's what I loved about Larry Lazan because we had a lot of older guys that I feel maybe were threatened by some of the younger guys. So you would always hear, "You're not ready. You're not ready." Well, I get it. I'm not ready. But if I get into acting role and I'm number 19 on the list of 20 guys, at least I can start, you know, thinking at that level. And Larry was the first one, regardless of what was going in Larry's life. You know, Larry was in my corner, and he was like, Billy. He goes, I learned a lot in this trade, and he goes, you're going to learn from some of my mistakes, but you're going to learn from the things that I know. And one of them is you're going to test as soon as you can. And I love them because we just sit there a lot of times because he was a guy that stayed up late every day. And I would work out at 9 o'clock at night every day. And after I'd work out, I go and sit and we just, you know, we'd solve all the world's problems sitting there watching TV, you know. And I love the guy for it. You know, he just always had my back and he was looking out for me. So thanks, Larry. I appreciate that comment.
And sound advice too about taking the test when it's time, take it. Just take it. I couldn't agree more. Like the experience you get from it, even if you don't get promoted, and that's one thing that I think is so valuable in it is it makes you a better firefighter, makes you a better engineer. Like if you're my
Yeah,
lieutenant, if I know what you are truly responsible for, and I've kind of been in those shoes a little bit, like it makes me
yeah,
better at my job too. So kudos to him for having that belief to push you right away. Like
yeah.
that's awesome.
And
That's not
Alex,
common.
here's the thing that I've learned, you know, like I said, I'm not one who's a loudmouth. I'm not one who you know pushes my agenda or anything like that. I'm kind of I do talk a lot, but I'm kind of laid back. And I would always just ask. I asked, at my second, it was my third year there, and I worked heavily with Larry Lazan and Lieutenant Bills. We had a great year, my third year there. We're at Station 25. We're running a bunch of calls because at that time our tower ladder would go everywhere. So we hit, awesome Rolling Meadows call, Mount Prospect call, and I was like, man, this year's going to be great. But that same year, I just asked, because we don't have a engineer's position, tested position. It's just that if your number comes up and you want to do it, you do it. And so, Alex, I asked, I go, because that's what Larry would say. Hey, just see if they'll do it. Who cares? So I asked, and they're like, hey, I knew Nick Otto was going through the process of becoming an engineer. So I'm like, I want to try it. And they're like, yeah, well, I go, just put me through. I don't want the position. I go, just put me through. Well, Nick ended up getting it. And at that time, we had an injury to one of our senior guys. And the day of that he got injured, they're like, Billy, you went through the whole process. We trust you. You're going to engineer today. And I'm like, because it was in the middle of the day that Tommy Goff got hurt. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're going to put me in the engineering spot just like that? And they're like, well, you're still going to take the test and finish it all off, but we don't have anybody. We want to throw you in the spot, and we know you can do it. And that's kind of like been my career where, things just kind of happen. I fall into it and people trust me to do the right thing. And I've been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate in timing because like I said, when I got on Buffalo Grove, 75% of the department was 75 years, or I'm sorry, was 20 or 15 years or more. So all of a sudden, 6 years, 7 years on, I'm like moving up the list. 10 years on, it's at times I'm the senior guy at the station, because of all the hiring that we had. So it's all about timing in a way too. But I was fortunate to get these spots.
Well, yeah, and you basically seized an opportunity when it was there, right? And you didn't wait. My old man preaches that, like, for promotions or another thing, right? Like engineering or joining a committee. Like, there's a maturity, and if that opportunity comes and you want to do it, you do it. Like, regardless of your time on or age or whatever it is. Like, if you want to do it, do it.
And when you ask, what's the worst they're going to say? No,
Yeah, right. Okay, you're right back where you were.
Yeah, and what I found out is a lot of times if you just ask, they may not give you the position, but they're like, you can train with them,
Yeah.
And so now I'm training with Nick Otto, and him and I are going through the process, and Nick gets it, and then all of a sudden someone gets hurt. And now I'm in the spot, and I'm like, holy cow, that was quick. I was not expecting that, and I've been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate. So, as time went on, I started as an engineer. I took the test, the first time, the lieutenant test the first time, and it was great because I got a lot of help going through the process. But because I'm a talker, it was really funny when I took the test the first time around. I did very well, but seniority, I didn't have the seniority part. Like, I mean, I ended up number one doing in the oral because I'm a talker. I just talk. I guess I do very well talking, and everything else I did very well. But I lost out on seniority and education. Well, what do you do then if you don't have that? I never complained about why I didn't score higher. It was meant to be. I was number 9. I got to act. That's great. But instead of complaining, I went and stepped up and I got my associate's degree because all I had was a high school diploma. Like I said, I wasn't looking for any more college. I'm not very good in school. I do very well because I spend 4 hours studying. But that's the only way I did well is by studying very hard. And when I got out, I'm like, I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to just get involved. That's why I ended up not involved, but I wanted to do something. Opportunity came. I ended up being an electrician, and it just always kind of fell in like that, where our opportunity would show up. I put everything into it, and I get it. And with the lieutenant's process, like I said, the first time I scored 9, it came pretty close to me, but no big deal. I blame myself for not having education at that point. I blame myself for not doing more. And the second time around, I at least got my associate's degree out of the way because we test every third year. And I padded my resume a little more. I did a little more. And I'm telling you right now, like I said, I don't test very well, but I spent for the last month for the written 16 hours a day studying for like 3 or 4 weeks. And because all I did was take notes, and I scored second highest on the test, but it was awesome because 4 of us scored 88 and 1 scored 89, I think it was. But I attribute that to the hard work that I put into it. And that was the second time around. And it was tough because it put a real strain on my relationship with my wife because I was very stressed out. I wanted this that bad that I stressed myself out and I stressed her out. So, um, something we'll talk about later with the relationship with your wife. I'm glad that I went through it, but if I had to go through it again, I would have had to change my ways because she definitely would have had some very serious talks on what I need to fix in terms of myself.
Yeah, I mean it's a commitment for everyone, even if they're unknowing, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot, especially to really take it seriously. Um, Shifting back a little bit, so we kind of talked through Lansing and then getting into Buffalo Grove. Where along that journey did you really learn about like firefighter values and culture? I know like when we talked before, you talked about in the trades, you kind of learned a little bit about attention to detail and those kinds of things and taking pride in
Mhm.
your work, right? Which is obviously an important part of the fire service. But did where did you pick up on some of those fire service traits like valor, honor, and those kinds of things?
So it would have been my first year with BG. Is where I really picked it up and I really, really took it seriously. Because like I said, Lieutenant Durkin, when I went to work for her my very first year, she took me under her wing. She helped me out a lot, but she also told me more of like the values that I needed to be a good person, and in terms of being a firefighter, being a paramedic, we all know that EMS, is 80 to 90% of our workday nowadays. And she valued EMS and she taught me that, hey, when you do it, you got to treat people well and you got to do a good job at it. And the people that I was with that year, Larry Lazan and a few other people, when they went on ambulance calls, they took it seriously. They treated people good. And then when it came to training, Wendy's like she was sharp as a tack. And when it came to training, she's like, all right, this is how the training's gonna go, Billy. This is what's expected of you. This is what we need you to do. And the work day, she showed me as a female in the fire service, she worked twice as hard. And she told me her trials and tribulations. And she got there because of hard work and pride in her work and attention to detail. And she instilled a lot of that in me. And so it was great because when she did that for me, I realized what I needed to do to be better because I already had a lot of good values and worth ethics set from being an electrician, from the people that mentored me there. And then I come here and I get someone like Lieutenant Durkin, who's just like, this is how it has to be, Billy. This is how you wear your uniform. This is how you have to look. You have to have pride in what you wear, and this is the reason why. And then I went to Lieutenant Bills, and he just really pushed it to another level because he was like, all right, Billy, yeah, no more talk. We do, so you already have a basis from Lieutenant Durkin, who was his firefighter back in the day. And she worked a lot for him. So they had a lot of the same morals and values in the fire service. And then now it's like, hey, you already know what she expected of you. I expect more. And he put that bar high for me. And he's like, this is what I expect of you. And then, like I said, some of the guys that were at the station with me, they knew what Wendell expected. And because of what they knew what he expected, we trained and trained and trained every day, and he knew EMS was important, but he also knew what's high risk is being a firefighter. So because of that, he goes, yeah, that EMS stuff is great. He goes, but I'm going to get you to be a good firefighter and I'm going to train you and we're going to do everything I can in my power to get you to be a good firefighter. So a lot of that was my first 2 years with my first two lieutenants. And I was with Wendell for I think 3 years in a row, and Larry Lazan the same thing. We kind of traveled together, and what I loved about Larry Lazan is he's an older guy, more time, but for me, with me working with him, I'd be like, hey, I want to do this training. And he'd be like, yeah, let's do it. He was all for it. And it just worked out really good for me my first 2 years at BG.
That's awesome.
I was tested a lot, and the one thing I learned in the trades is when someone tests you, you're going to do or one or three things. You're either going to just stand there, you're going to cower, or you're going to step up for yourself. And I stepped up for myself as much as I could, within reason and within respect for the other people, because yeah, as a senior guy, he's throwing shots at you, but respectfully, I would throw it back, because I wasn't going to take that. And someone said that to me one time. He's like, yeah, we knew that people weren't going to mess with you because of how you handle this situation. And I was like, it wasn't for me to embarrass him by no means. It was just for me to say, hey, I'm not going to take that. And I learned it from when I was an electrician with iron workers. Iron workers kind of run the show when you're on a big job. And for me, it's like, you're not doing that. You're not tack welding in front of my head without telling me. Give me a heads up, and that's what I ended up being, was one of them guys. But then I also knew I had to forge a relationship with them if I needed something from them. So I knew tactfully and respectfully how to talk to people, because there's one day, yeah, I can yell and scream at you, Alex, and be like, hey, you, this, that. And, now you're doing it right back at me. Or I could say, hey, man, do me a favor. I'm working under here. You know, let's work together. And I ended up forging a lot of friendships because of it, because I knew that was the way to get things done.
Do you
But
have do you have any like advice, I guess, on that kind of situation? Right. So like there, especially in the fire service, right? We love seniority, and we should respect it. Absolutely, right. Do you have any advice maybe for like a young or new firefighter or something like that who's coming in, and or even maybe someone with a little bit of time on? I don't know, but who respectfully having that dialogue, right? So yes, the senior man can say and do most whatever he wants for the most part,
yeah,
but like
yeah.
how do you still stand up for yourself, right? But not make it a fight, not make it a
So
shootout.
so the one thing I learned, and it was from day one from being an electrician, excuse me, was you have to have some thick skin. So I had I was very sensitive when it came to, people making fun of me. And as time went on, I learned to, like, just let it roll off. Sometimes you got to let it roll off. Sometimes you got to stand up for yourself, but respectfully stand up for yourself. Sometimes you just got to say, hey, you got me. There was one time there was a lieutenant that was throwing shots at me. And so I playfully threw a few shots back, and he started throwing even harder. I'm like, I just laughed. And he's like, what? And I'm like, you won. And he's like, what? I go, you won, dude. I go, I can't compete with you. You're this banter ain't going anywhere because I'm losing. And he just laughed, and I laughed, and I walked away, and it worked out, because sometimes you just got to roll with it. Sometimes you got to be like, if you do something wrong and they make fun of you because of it, it's like, I still do it to this day. I'll be like, yeah, I messed up, dude. Yeah, that's kind of funny, but yeah, sometimes I just accept the banter and roll with it and joke about it myself. Sometimes you got to have a little humility, because you got to be able to laugh at yourself sometimes. Because if you take it too seriously, they're going to hit you even harder. If they know your weaknesses, they're going to hit you on that too. So I wouldn't put my weaknesses out there. I would accept some of it and laugh with it. But I guess what makes me different, Alex, is I don't throw a lot out there to get it back. So that's maybe how I dealt with it and got away with it a lot. Where other guys, you met a lot of young guys when they walk in, and it's like, they start throwing shots, and then you start getting it back. They start getting it back, and then they're like, oh, and it's like, no, dude, you threw the first shot out. And at the academy I teach at Moraine Valley, um, the fire academy there. Um, it's funny because we had a young guy there, and he's just throwing shots out, and I go, hey, just be ready to take it. You got to be able to take it if you're going to throw it out like that. And he goes, I can take it, Instructor Navarro. I go, we'll see, because I'm going to throw some shots at you. So something happened, and I threw a shot at him, and he kind of quieted. I go, hey, if you could throw it out, you got to be able to take it. And he's like, I got you. I got you. And since then, he kind of slowed up. He slowed up a little. And sometimes it has to come from a senior person, not to say not to have banter like that, but to say, like, hey, if you're going to throw it, you got to be able to take it. If you can't take it, then I'm going to step in and say something as a supervisor, because it's not cool. It's not cool to just be able to throw someone out there and then not take it. And these younger guys are like, that's kind of, they can't even take it. And it's like, yeah, I get it. So I'll handle it sometimes. But for me, it's kind of hard advice to give because of the person that I am, and I know how to deal with it. I guess it comes individually how you're able to accept it, if you could roll with it, or if you're too sensitive, you're gonna let it affect you, and you got to have that thick skin. I used to do the new guy talk when I was a blue shirt. it was awesome. I love to do the new guy talking. There was a lot of main points that I would hit, but that was one of them, Alex. Is that if you're going to throw it out there, you got to be able to take it. But for your first year, just soak it all in. Just try not to get involved too much with it. You can have fun banter, but don't let it get ever too serious. But you better have some thick skin because there's some guys here that can throw shots, and you better be ready for them. And if you can't handle it, then you're going to be labeled as a guy who can't handle it. So for me, I love to warn the guys about it, especially the young guys, and explain to them that you can have that banter with the guys, but be ready for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of part of like the fire service ecosystem, if you will, right? Like that.
Yeah.
We're checks and balances. Like that's how and obviously there's people that take it too far. That's not what I'm saying, but
Right.
like that's part of how we, I guess, correct behavior, right? Like
Yeah.
really, that's what it is.
Yeah, and it works well as long as it's respectful. Like you
Yeah,
said, it can correct a lot of behavior if it's respectful. It's when it gets disrespectful or it becomes hurtful that we kind of have to put a little kibosh on it. But it is a good way to put somebody in line. I mean, you're checking somebody, and it was funny. I had a problem with somebody one time, as me as a supervisor and him as a blue shirt. And I went to go work for a friend of mine that I've known forever in the electrical field. And he's like, "Did you check them yet?" And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You need to check them right now, Billy. You know that. You need to check them and put them in place." I'm like, "Yeah, I do." I go, "Thanks for reminding me, Brian." But that's a friend from outside the fire service, and I'm kind of venting, and he's like, "You know better. You need to check them, dude." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And it's funny. I was going to talk a little bit about that too, but when it comes to leading people, when I was at the electrical field, it's apples to apples when it comes to leadership. It's just apples and oranges to what you're doing, but a lot of it is the same, and that's one of them. My buddy Brian is an amazing electrician, and I learned a lot from him. Him and I started at the same time, and he ended up running a lot work before me, and I learned from him, on how to talk to people and how to forge relationships and how to work, get things done, but get people to work too. And you got to. That's we'll add on to that. We'll go to that when we get to the leadership part.
yeah. Gloria Chavez Gomez is saying, "Learn to pick your battles. Treat people like you want to be treated." And this goes for all walks of life, and she's totally right.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. We could talk about trades now. I mean, that was kind of like the next thing I was really going to segue into anyway. So,
yeah.
like you kind of said, there's some apples to oranges, there's some apples to apples. When we had talked before, it really sounded like you got a fast tracked in that too, and you got handed a lot of responsibility
Yeah.
pretty quickly. So maybe share with the audience about your experiences through the trades, and then what translated kind of over into the fire service.
So once again, it's all about timing. In 95, 130 or 94, 134 opened the IBW 134 opened up their books, and they had the books closed for a long time. And so I told my dad about it. I found out about it. My father-in-law at the time, which my Erica was my girlfriend, my wife was my girlfriend. He was in 134, so I inquired about it because I knew he kind of set me up, told me what I needed to do. My dad made a few phone calls, and I took the test and I got in right away. I got in spring of 95, small company, did my apprenticeship, ended up with this small company. And it was funny because that's when Chicago took the test in 95. And I was like, you know what? I literally just got out of school. They're testing next week. You know what? And I decided not to take it. And I'm glad I decided not to take it because I got to learn a lot from being an apprentice and a firefighter. I'm sorry, an electrician, and after that being a foreman. And got in. We were a real small company. And the nice part about a small company is you don't get lost in the shuffle. They put here, you're doing this. Day one, I was up on a rooftop. I'm putting in feeds for these condenser units, and I was by myself. And I'm like, what the heck, And that's what they had me do. And they put me in positions where I had to learn and figure it out. And if I didn't know how to figure it out, I made a phone call. But that's how it ended up for me. Is right away, it's like, boom, you're going to do this and that. And then one of my first mentors, Bill Court. Older gentleman, an amazing mechanic. And what I mean by a mechanic, he was just great with the tools. And that's what you wanted to be labeled as a mechanic, as electrician. And he taught me that. He goes, hey, we do 8 for 8. We hit it hard in the morning, but on Friday we're going to take it easy because we did everything we needed to do. We give a, you know, we try to do everything we can to do a good job, and we'd be prideful of our work. When you put something in and it's exposed, it looks great, and that's what I expect of you. I'm like, okay. And as time went on, it was just him and I working all these jobs, and then he taught me how to think ahead. So he's like, hey, when I'm doing this, I need you to think 3 steps ahead of me. So as I'm piping this, I need you to have everything ready for me as we go along. I'm like, okay. So that's where I learned how to set up, you know, the next part of the job. And then as time went on, he would give me a print. He's like, hey, check out this print. This is what I want. I want you to do with the. I want you to do this. So it's picking up that. So yeah, right away I got some responsibility, and then we got bought out by a bigger company. Well, you know, right away they started throwing me with a few of the crews, the heavy crews, and I'm like, I was doing very well because I already learned a lot of that stuff. I was becoming a good mechanic, and for me, I wanted I wanted to be a shop rocket. And what a shop rocket is somebody that it's like a squad guy. A shop rocket guy, a shop rocket is someone that's going to go in there, knock the stuff out, and get out of there. When jobs are not doing well, that you get that shop rocket in there, he's going to fix things. He's going to do things. And I want to be labeled as a shop rocket because them guys don't get laid off either. And it's a horrible feeling to get laid off and not have any work or not have any money coming in. So I busted my butt, learned the job as well as I can. And as the years went on, all of a sudden, the superintendent walks in one day and he's like, Billy, do you want to start running work? I'm like, I'd love to. So he's like, what we're going to start doing is you're going to be with Johnny Brennan. Johnny Brennan's going to go ahead and start teaching you what you need to do. I'm like, okay. So there was no schooling to be a foreman. It was just on the job training. So it's like, okay. And I watched Johnny and I watched how he handled guys because he was a general foreman. I watched how he talked to the guys. I watched how he built relationships with other trades, and then relationships created opportunities for us. And I was like, man, this guy's got it dialed in. He knew how to talk to people because one day he came up to me and he's like, hey, you really screwed up. I'm like, what did I do, Johnny? And he explained to me, and he's like, dude, I was going to smoke you. I was going to lay you off on Friday. But you know what? I thought about it, and I knew I could have defended myself, but I just took it. I said, you know what? Yeah, yeah, I did that. And if I would have explained it myself, it wouldn't have sounded good. It just, even though it was the truth that I was saying, I was just, you know what? Yeah, you're right, Johnny. And I said, I'll do better from here on out. And he's like, good. He goes, I expect more of you. This is water under the bridge, and let's go from here. And that's where I learned how to really deal with people is from somebody like Johnny Brennan. And so Johnny taught me a lot. He would give me a print. He was like, hey, we got this basement in here. It was a big build out that we had. And he's like, I'm just going to let you run with it. Here's the print. And he's like, I can't pay you foreman's wages, but show me what you got. And I killed it. I did very well in it, but then work got slow. And we're working 3 days, 4 days a week. And a friend of mine called me and he's like, hey, come work for me at City Lights. I'm like, okay. I ended up on a huge job, a couple $1 million job. And we're working 7/12, so 7 12-hour days. And they hand me this print. And they're like, hey, you're a foreman, right? I'm like, yeah. They're like, here you go. And it was a fire alarm print. And I'm like, oh, never did fire alarms before. I know how to pipe them. I know how to wire them. But I didn't know, like, at the time, addressable systems were just coming out. So luckily, he gave me an apprentice. And I go, hey, what year are you? And he's like, fourth year. I'm like, you just did fire alarms, didn't you? He's like, yeah. I go, you're my best friend. And him and I, yeah, you use what you got.
Yeah.
And him and I started it. And then I got another friend of mine that hired on with the company to work with me. And this guy was an animal when it came to piping. And I'd be like, you're doing this, we're going to do this. And then that was the first time I had to lay somebody off too, because I had another guy and you have to have that. They're like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, man, this guy ain't working out for me. He's like, well, then what do you want? What are you suggesting? I go, I don't know. Is there somewhere else we could put him? They're like, no. They're like, you got to lay him off. And that's where I learned a little bit of the hard discussion. Like, oh, dude, I got to give this guy a check to say we're laying you off, and it was hard. I wasn't used to that. I'm running a job. I don't know nothing about it, and I don't know how to deal with that kind of part of it. But I knew how to deal with people. So I just went up to him. I was like, hey, sorry, man, I got to lay you off. We're getting a little slow here. Job's coming to an end, and he's like, okay, I understand. So it worked out good. But on that job, I learned how to forge relationships. I had a general foreman who created a lot of enemies in there, and I created a lot of friendships. And when you're working with other trades, sometimes you need help. And I needed the HVAC guys to do something for me. And I went up to him one day, and because I became good friends with him, he's like, I'm like, hey, so and so, I need you to, what can I do here to get this duct detector in? And he's like, you need a boot and this and something else. And I'm like, is that something you can do for me? He's like, is it for you or is it for your boss? I go, it's for me. I'm running this part of the job. He goes, I'll do it for you. But that, SOB, I'm not doing anything for. And I'm like, oh, and I learned how to, not be that kind of a person. And I learned how to, with this job, we work 7/12s. So by Thursday, you have to have everything ready for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're working 7-hour days. So on Saturday afternoon and Sunday, it's double time. So you better have your ducks lined, and you better have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D. Because if you don't, and there's idle time, they're not happy, you know? And so I had a really good, another general foreman that was in charge of all the prints. He taught me how to lay the jobs out. And it was like, oh man, this is great. I know how to lay them out. I know how to set it up. He's like, you're going to be in all these meetings. And it was terrible because I have a small portion of this job. I'm in meetings with these big, huge companies, and I'm sitting there and I'm falling asleep because there was nothing for me until the end. They're like, all right, Billy, how's the fire alarm system going? I'm like, it's great. I'm getting it piped. And the nice part about it, the engineer who did the fire alarm prints, he would call me up. He's like, hey, I got a new print. It shows you how to do this. It shows you how to do that. So it worked out really nice. So when it comes to leadership and the trades, and then leadership with the fire service, leadership with the trades, you're just handed a print sometimes and said, figure it out. You're said, here's a crew and figure it out. And you have a lot of good guys, and you got a lot of terrible guys. And that's like we talk about in the fire service, is you learn a lot from the terrible guys. I think you almost learn a lot more from the terrible guys because you don't want to be that person. And I was on many of jobs where it's like, oh man, this guy's terrible. But the good thing about being an electrician was all you had to worry about is a few years or a few weeks, few months down the road, you're going to be in another job. In the fire service, you gotta you gotta make it work somehow. And I'm not somebody to write anybody off. So it's like, okay, then I'm going to figure out a way to work with somebody. But it was really nice because it taught me a lot of how to deal with people. And then, like we talked about when we went out for breakfast, is forging them relationships, getting them relationships started so that, you can work with somebody. And what I mean by that is Gilsinger was talking, Craig Gilsinger on an earlier show talked about it. And him and I were doing all these trainings together. And it was awesome because we're right next to each other. I would call my battalion chief and say, hey, chief, can I go over and work with Lincolnshire? And he's like, what are you guys doing? I go, hey, we're going to do a quick rig drill. We'll be about an hour. He goes, yeah, if you're going to be an hour, awesome. You know what? Just take yourself out of service, go over there and do it. And I would go over there, and he had a new guy there. And every time he'd call, we'd do something different. And it was so much fun, Alex, because we created such a bond together that we had a fire that was in the middle, between the middle of us. And as soon as he got there, they were there first. And I pulled up, and he's like, Billy, get your crew. I need you to do this. I'm like, hell yeah, we got assignments. And because he knew me, he trusted me, So that's the part I love, is forging relationships, and friendships, so that it creates opportunities for trainings, for help, and anything we need, for backup. Like I said, for electrical, I forged so many good relationships that all I had to say is, hey man, I need a favor. And they'd be like, yeah, we got you. Because sooner or later I was going to pay them back regardless. Oh, you know what? We need some temp lighting here. Gotcha, bro. I'll send the apprentice over there. Cost you nothing, But in the long term, what it did is it got somebody else to come over to me and be like, or me to go to somebody else and say, hey, I need this. And they're like, yeah, I got you. Like with the plumbers, if they run a rack where they're going to run all their pipe, we would say, hey, we'll run the rack. You provide everything, but we get the bottom of the rack, you get the top of the rack. And they'd be like, yeah. I mean, I was on a huge job where we did that with the plumbers, and it was amazing. And then you come here and you forge some same relationships where, like yourself, I talked to you about it the other day, is if I ever get back up to 27, Station 27 on the north side of Buffalo Grove, when and if I ever get back there, I'm going to start training with you guys, because our quint will go up to you guys. We do touch a truck one day. We do, feeding us another day. We do, first in. I mean, the nice part is I got a department that's all about it. And it's going to work out really nice, because like right now at Station 25, the south side of town, we're less than a mile away from Station 4, Arlington Heights Station 4. So their engine, we're a truck. We're the first truck in their district And right now I'm trying to get that relationship built with them. But I already talked to Lieutenant Rattel, and I'm like, hey, I know what you guys asked for. I'm not asking for the front of the building. I'm taking the front of the building. He goes, yeah, you should. And I go, yeah, because that's what we do, right? And he's like, yeah. So you have to build them relationships, with towns outside of you. You have to go over there. And I learned that all from Wendell Bills. Lieutenant Bills in the fire service, he would take me when I was at Station 25. He would take me over there and he would call up Station 4. He's like, hey, can we go use your training site? And they're like, yeah, Wendell, go right ahead. This guy had all the contacts, We get the keys, we go over there, we'd go to their tower and do trainings in there. And it isn't even our tower. So that's where I learned how to build relationships, because it's going to create opportunities for, like I said, for trainings, for times to get together and talk about things. That's what we have to do more of in the fire service.
Yeah.
So yeah, the trades allowed me to learn everything that I build my day off of nowadays. It taught me how to talk to people. It taught me how to treat people, and how to set up jobs. I mean, setting up jobs is, for me, setting up the day for the guys. I go in there, we do pass on, and after pass on, I go, this is what we have, this is what I like to do. And then I ask them, is there any special projects you need to do that maybe we can help, or that you have to do? I could set aside time for you, because once again, Alex, our day is mainly consisted of EMS right now. So I want to get that half-hour training outside of the trainings we already have to go over something. And right now I got our guys dialed into where it's like, guys are, the senior guy with 30 something years is like, hey, how about if we do airbags? I'm like, hell yeah, you're dialed in, dude. This is awesome. And like I said, that's the electrical that I learned that from, you know.
Yeah, and one thing you talked about when you were talking about leadership and learning that on the electrical side of your job, right? And one thing, and maybe it's an observation that I picked up. It almost, so you said there's really no formalized leadership training, right? You just basically get handed the responsibility and you go. One thing, and maybe I'm wrong, it's just a theory of mine, is it seems like then the best leaders probably are the ones that keep coming back and get more jobs, right? And
Yep.
so like the bad ones make their way out. So then you just kind of always have, well, I shouldn't say always, but you mostly have positive examples because those leaders keep getting more jobs, right?
Yeah.
And it was an interesting observation. We don't get that in the same way in the fire service, but like, um, I would almost parallel that to what you were saying about going out of town to somebody else's fire, and now you're known as someone that's got it together. Now you get the good assignments. Now you get to really go work instead of go set up a fill site for a porta tank 3 miles away. Like you get something that's actually good. Hey, we need you to go to the roof and vent. Hey, we need you to go to Charlie's side and break a window and go in and search. Like you get
Yeah,
that stuff when you show that you're competent. So maybe that's the same
it
kind
is.
of thing. But it was an interesting observation. I hadn't really thought about that because I have no trades background. Obviously, I had no experience in that. So
Yeah, and the trades, like I said, when it comes certain things, it's apples and apples, and when it comes to leading a group of guys, it's the same thing. I could throw my buddy Brian Hansen in and say, hey, you know what? I can teach you the fire side, but you already know how to be a leader. You're going to do very well, and he will do well because he's confident, he's strong in what he does, he knows his abilities, and like we talk about it, he's prideful. He wants to do good. So I can bring him in, teach him the fire and paramedic side, and then say go, and he would do great. I think some people are just born leaders, and
yeah,
others have to learn a little bit from the books. And I'm that way. I needed a little bit of book help, but I knew what I wanted, and which is to, I wanted to run work, and it wasn't because I wanted the money or anything. Like, I enjoyed it. Same thing with being a lieutenant. I really enjoy what I do, and people are like, "Are you going to test for BC?" I go, well, I need my bachelor's degree, and I need to finish that. That's a goal of mine now, because my wife's like, hey, you know what? You get the village to pay for it. You're good to go. You walk away with a degree. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And but if I test for it, and I don't want it right now. I really enjoy being a company officer. And right now, what I love about your show is you have a lot of people that come in here that are making big changes. For me, I just want to make changes with my guys right now. I want my guys to be really good, and yeah, and go from there. And once I get my guys good, then I'll worry about making bigger changes and getting more and more involved with training the whole department. Because right now I'm on the training committee. I love doing it. Anytime they ask me to do a training, I'm all in. I'm ready to have a little fun with it. But that's the fun part of our job, I think, is leading trainings. And right now I need to lead my guys. I came off of 2 surgeries for my shoulders, and when I came back, it was a little bit of downtime for me, and I got a little bit of rejuvenation, and it's like, okay, things need to change, And now, I mean, things are freaking great right now with my crew. We're For me, it's like, hey guys, we got these trainings. I know we have a lot of stuff going on. Just give me a half hour, and they're bought in. And it's like as soon as I get them guys to where I want in terms of training, and knowing our district and knowing what I want, then I'm going to start going and doing more for the shift, because that's what I love to do. I don't do it because of the money. I mean, it's nice. Don't get me wrong. I do it because I love doing it. I love being a part of it. And I think you need that. You need to be involved as a lieutenant. I think when you get that promotion to a lieutenant, you can't regress. You got to move forward. You got to take more responsibility. And then with that responsibility, you got to run with it. And I find some guys, sometimes you watch them and it's like they just drop everything. I'm like, no more, they're not no more committees. They don't do anything anymore. They just want to be lieutenants. I'm like, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
For me, and it's like, once again, I'm going to run back to Sammy Vega when he talked about mutts near the end of their career. I came in prideful, wanting to just be good at what I did. And that means just having a good reputation all throughout my career. Well, to have that, I got to end up for my last 2 to 5 years. That's all I got left. Still learning more, doing more, teaching more, because with that, I'm not going to turn into that mutt. I don't want to say at the end of the career, someone say, yeah, at the end of the career, Billy, he just pulled, hit the brakes and just was done. I don't want to do that. I want
Yeah.
to do the total opposite. I want to be good all the way to the end. And then when I retire, I know personally, just me, I don't mind what the other people think, but for me personally, I did what I was supposed to do. I got these guys trained. I did them well, and I don't know. I guess I feel better for it.
Yeah. I mean, um, like really, like junior guys, they only get like maybe a 5 year window where they really get to know someone who's towards the end of their career and they're about to ready to retire and they're going
Yeah,
they're on their downward slope out, if you will, and they might only know the last 2 to 5 years of you.
yeah,
And if you just take your foot off the gas and that lasts, they're not gonna, even if you were lights out for 20 something years, like I love that that's your mentality of it, and that's important to finish strong, right, and to pass that
yeah,
on to the next group because they're going to look at you and want to emulate what you're doing, right? And
yeah.
I I couldn't, yeah, a legacy. Gloria said a legacy. 100%, it's a legacy.
Yeah, and it's funny because um it involves everything. It involves you being prideful of your fire station, of your rigs, of what's yours. And now I firmly believe in it. For that day, that rig is mine. I own it, and you guys own it too. So you need to wash it. You need to take care of it. You need to make sure it's ready to go. Same thing with the fire station. After all that stuff that we need to do gets done, and I told the guys, I'm a stickler on certain things, dude. You see something, pick it up. This is our station. I know it's going to be torn down next year, but we still have to make it right. I don't want to live with cockroaches. That's just not me. And I tell the guys that. You know what? I grew up, the way I grew up was I had a mom that was amazing. She was all about we keep our stuff clean, because that's who we are. My mom was very prideful in the home, that because my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So she made sure we were taken care of. And then it's like, hey, you got your own chores to do. You need to take care of this. And coming into a fire station and seeing, you know, certain things not cleaned, and it's like, no, that's not going to work, and it's really good now because the guys know that's who I am. There's certain things. It's like, guys, check out your rigs. That's the most important thing. I don't care about towels and all that to start the day. I care about your rigs being checked out. I care about your tools being checked out. Care about your SCBA getting checked out. And then after that, we go to training, we run calls. I give you, a safety nap, and then we do a training in the afternoon, late afternoon, and then our day's done. Get your workouts in, do what you have to do. But That's my setup for these guys. Be prideful in what we have, because I remember when we got our Ferrari truck. Um, I was like, well, this thing has to last another 15 years. And I got 20 years. So, this is going to last just as long as I am. We need to take care of it. And as an engineer, that's what I did. I made sure it was taken care of, and that's what we have to instill in our younger guys. It's not a throwaway, we got to make sure this thing lasts, because as expensive trucks are now, and then we're running them as EMS backups too, on ambulance calls. We got to take care of it. Our truck is going to end up with over 100,000 miles very soon. So we got to take care of it. So you got to be prideful.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta. Chief Leonhardt is in the chat here, and he says you gotta leave it better than you found it, right? And he's
Yes.
spot on. Larry also had a pretty big comment here, so I'm just gonna read it real quick. He says he envies your training philosophy and your energy. A lot of guys start to wind down once they have that 10 to 15 years on the job, which is totally true. It's very easy to fall into that trap. Same with the after 2 years for a junior guy. That's another really, really tough moment, I think, in most people's careers, where there's no leash anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 10 to 15 years, for sure. He says you keep pushing forward, and you do a great job helping other firefighters, and always has safety and their best interest in mind. And like that embodies the fireman. That's what we're supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's why you're on here, but hats off again for that's
But
that's the mentality you're supposed to have.
and like I said, I'm not going to be the best lieutenant there is, and for your show, I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I'm sorry, of episodes you had. It's pretty awesome to hear a lot of your guys. That's not me. These guys are there. I'm right here. I'm your support. What do you need from me? I got you. And I think there has to be people like that. Everybody can't be this, the captain. Someone else has to back up that captain. And I'm all about that. Hey, you want to be training officer? That's great, but can I be your assistant? And I asked that, recently I asked that, but off the record, can I just help you where you need it? Because I want to be involved a little bit. Within reason, I want to be involved, but I want to just be involved to help out. I love the training aspect of it. And it was funny because the first time I took the lieutenant's test, that was one of the questions is, what's the most important part of your day? And I go, training. They're like, wait, what? And I go, let me explain to myself. I go, running calls is always going to be the most important. But in my head, training is right there too, because of the fact that if you don't know how to do your job, how are you going to run a call? If we're not training to get better, or if we're not training to learn a new skill, how are we going to do that skill when we go on an EMS call or a fire call, or an extrication? That's why we train, is so that we can get better, or we keep up skills that we already have. When you see guys in spring training, I try to tell these guys, because it's like, oh, I don't want to throw a 20-foot ladder again. We did that last year. And I'm like, well, when the guys go to spring training and they're doing all the basics and that, why are they doing that?
Yeah.
To work on their skills, to get it back, to get it back up to where it is. If you haven't thrown a ladder in 2 years, shame on you.
Yeah.
It happened to me. And I'll give you a really good example, Alex, because a lot of examples I give in life when it comes to firefighting or EMS is mistakes I made. I am very humble when it comes to that stuff, because of the fact that, and I'm a little embarrassed, but I'm not, because learn from my mistakes. There's more mistakes that I've made that I give as examples than I do, life lessons, on the good things I've done. And so, one of them was a few weeks ago. We got really busy. I didn't check out, the rig the way I should have. And then the next morning, Lieutenant Pasquarella walks in and he's like, "Hey, Billy, your pack was empty. Your bottle was empty." I'm like, "What do you mean it was empty?" He goes, "It was bone dry empty. There's no air in your pack, in your bottle." And I'm like, "Whoa!" And we went on some pretty good calls. And I'm not only am I embarrassed, but I made that mistake. So now that's a training lesson. Guys, you have to check your stuff out, because what happened was some air packs got moved around, because the air packs that were on 234 weren't the right ones. So when they got moved around, they just clipped it in. And the next morning I go in there, we got busy right off the bat. I forgot to check. I shouldn't say forgot. I should have checked it out. I didn't. And what happens? I got caught with my pants down to my legs. That can't happen. That can't happen. That's why we got to be good at what we do. And so, yeah, my examples are mistakes that I made. And the reason why I do that is I want people to learn from my mistakes, but then to be like, oh, if Billy can say that, then I could teach others to do that too.
Yeah, you have to be open about mistakes. I think that's one of the best things, at least in my generation of the fire service now coming in, and well, younger than mine. I'm kind of in the middle of now, but is there is a culture now about mistakes being okay, owning up to them, not making it seem like you're a loser if you make a mistake. Like,
Right.
and that's why I asked that question at the end. And we're not even close to that yet, but I think it's important. It's important to show that, like, that
Yeah.
you are aware of your mistakes. I have an audience question for you, and Anna Cesowitz, I think I got
Oh,
that. I really think
no.
I pronounced that right. Usually I'm bad at these, but Bill asked the question because Bill's easier. He says, Lieutenant, what do you think is the greatest challenge the fire service is facing? What worries you? Biggest
Um,
challenge.
so that's Billy Anasevich. I went to high school with him. He's now the chief. He's a fire chief now, and a really close friend of mine.
Sorry, I
And
butchered your name, Chief.
and I love him to death because he's one of my go-to guys. I think right now is Manning.
Yeah.
Is I know you talked about it before in an earlier podcast, but what scares me right now is getting people to take our tests nowadays. And then another thing, Alex, that I'm seeing a problem with is your part-time departments, your combination departments, not getting the people they used to. Where before you're getting an influx of guys that want to be part-timers that are good with being POCs, part-timers, volunteers. You're not getting that anymore. And it scares me because like for smaller towns, what do you do? What do you do to get these guys in here? And what's also happening, Alex, is you look at, we'll just use Lansing because I came there. And it's a department that I love to death because they gave me my start. And I talked to one of their guys, Tony McAllis, the other day, and he's like, the problem they have is people poach from them, you know? So when I left them, there was 5 or 6 guys that left them that are solid guys that are in other departments, Cal City, Lockport, the city, Buffalo Grove. We all left, and if they would have stayed there, I'm not saying that it wouldn't have changed anything that they already have now. But what I'm saying is you have solid guys that were hardworking that would still be there. And that's another thing we're seeing. And you're seeing it too, Alex, is, you're seeing guys leave like Zurich.
Yeah.
We're seeing guys leave where they're coming from to come to Buffalo Grove. And though we appreciate it, the poaching is scary. It's the scary part about it. So we can talk about everything else, but if we ain't got the manning to start, all that other stuff is non-existent.
You're totally right.
So
Yeah, the volunteer, like I started as volunteer when I was 20, right? And I didn't get hired full time for 8 years beyond that. Now, like, there's people that are getting hired full time traditional at like 21 or 22, like, you know what I mean, and just got out of a fire academy like a week before. Like, that
yeah,
shift is completely different, and that's only I've only been in the fire service for 14 years. Like, that change has happened so rapidly that
yes,
no one's prepared for it. You're totally right that manning is an issue that no one's been able to solve. And I feel I came from part-time volunteer in Antioch, where I came from is still, they struggle with recruitment, retention. I mean, retention, you can
yeah,
only do so much when you're part-time, but like, even just attracting young people to come join the fire service, like, it is tough
yeah,
right now when you get 8 applications. Like, that is
yeah.
nothing. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's been said a million times, but all of us have gone to where hundreds of people are taking a test.
yeah,
And when I took Buffalo Grove's test, it was probably 300 to 400. That's a great showing. Now you're getting 30 people or
yeah,
less. For I remember Lansing when I talked to my buddy Tony, he's like, yeah, I think it was less than 20 people that they got, and it's scary. It's really scary. How we fix it, I don't know yet. Um, but it's an amazing job,
yeah,
and it's a prideful job. It's an honorable job, and we're just not getting the people to do it anymore. I mean, I know COVID came into play, and the culture of, I would rather be a TikTok person, making money doing, not hard work than to work a hard job. It's scary.
yeah,
It's scary for the future. I think somehow, I think we'll find a way to make it better again. But for right now, we do have a problem,
yeah.
and it's getting people. We see it with the paramedics right now. We had where everybody was going to paramedic school, and we had so many paramedics coming in, but we've lost so many paramedics during the last 4 years that we're hurting. I mean, you've seen how we're changing the ways that we're setting up our tests to our entry tests and what we're allowing now, where some of these towns are allowing EMTBs and then we'll send you to paramedic school. It's something we have to do. It's a change we have to make.
Yeah.
When we walked in, we had to be a paramedic minimum.
Yeah.
So I think the only thing we can do is try and work on kids coming out of high school, and seeing if we could poach them to get involved, or more feeder programs. But it's something that the future is it's gonna really hurt us in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I was 77th on my list, and I think the list total had 90. But even with me at 77, my department's last 3 lists probably weren't even 77 people.
Yeah,
Like it's crazy, and the feeder program, like that's tough too. Like
yeah,
there aren't as many. We've had rapid growth in this area too, so there really aren't as many part-time fire departments anymore for someone to get started with. I mean,
yeah.
up where I am, there's a decent amount, but then like even that, like it's tough to attract. Like I don't know. If we could solve that, we could write a book. But it's always going to be a thing that I shouldn't say always, but for the foreseeable future. So I couldn't agree more. That's the biggest challenge right now. I got a couple big comments in here, so I just want to make sure I read them if they're relevant to what we have going. So Mike Bloom's in here, and he's saying, manpower has always been an issue. Departments accepting jump companies or
Yep.
two-man companies, right? So we actually were
Yeah.
kind of towing that line before we didn't have applicants.
Yeah.
He's definitely right there. Yeah, and the hiring with nothing. Sorry, the stuff keeps moving. I'm not that good at this, apparently. Usually I don't get that many comments in here. You're hot. You're hot. Leidig already was making some jokes about you earlier, so
Probably was.
we got too many here too.
I love them.
Yeah. Uh, Erica is actually saying maybe the younger generation doesn't know that they can make a good living as a firefighter, or the fact that they're expected to be firefighters and paramedics. So maybe they just don't know. And yeah, I mean that's us.
Yeah.
I mean, what's funny is like this show's on Facebook, but like 2 generations beyond doesn't use Facebook. So like this is irrelevant. You know what I mean? To a different generation. I'm not going to get up here and do TikTok dances, but like
I think you do a great job, bro.
No, you ask my wife. That every wedding, it's not good.
Hey, you have fun. That's all that matters.
I got some rhythm because I came from a little bit of music background, but it doesn't translate to my feet very well. So unless liquid courage.
It's funny because Chief Anisevich, like I said, Billy's a really close friend. So I talked to him about, and I asked, what are some of your struggles right now? And that was one of the first things he said is, obviously the overtime thing, that's everybody, right? Because everybody's short guys, a lot of overtime going out. But he also said, what do we, his problem is the part-time part of his department, getting these guys in here to supplement the full-time guys. And then you said it best with jump companies. When I first got in with Lansing, they were just getting away from ghost riding a fire engine and 2 guys going in. I'm like, what are you talking about? Ghost riding? What is that? And they're like, well, you got a driver and you got a person in the lieutenant seat and you set the rig and you go. I'm like, are you serious? And they're like, yeah, you just got to be 2 minutes, 3 minutes. You got to know, you got to gate it as you go along until somebody gets there. And I'm like, that's crazy. And now that I look back on it, it's like, man, slowly we're moving back to that, if we don't get the manning. And I know we never will. I know we never will. So I'm waiting for people to, jump on me on that one. We never will go to that. But what do we do about these jump companies? Because these jump companies, I mean, our Station 27 is a jump company, and they're out the majority of the time. When it comes to, they don't have anybody else there. It's just you jump over and you go. So your day is a lot of times buying food because you can't cook. But how do we get them 2 more guys to have 5 guys there? How can we afford it and then man it and then hopefully not lose them to another bigger department,
Yeah.
And that's what happens. You lose these guys to bigger departments.
Because it's definitely not attractive, I think, for of people getting into jump companies are really not an attractive thing for a prospective
No.
firefighter, right? They could go somewhere else where, like, they want that stability. They don't want to be all over the place all day, and quite frankly, I think a lot of them want to have a way off the ambulance at some point to get,
Yes.
whatever, more consistent sleep or whatever reasons you'd want to be. So they look at places that aren't jumps and they go to them. It's all
And
over the place.
and
It's
Alex,
truly it's all I've ever known. Like
yeah.
I've in Antioch, maybe for a little bit, I was on an engine crew at their station one because they would staff the ambulance with some part timers. But really, like my whole career, I've been on a jump company, and it's with 3 people. So that's all I know.
Yeah. And it is nice having three people on an ambulance call. Don't get me wrong, in
Yeah, it
terms
is.
of
It is.
transport, and the way I did it is the officer always stays in back with the lead medic, and it made it fun for me because I still had patient contact. But switching a little bit on that subject though, we talk about departments, and when you get hired, you're married to that rig until someone takes your place. And what Buffalo Grove, that was different when I got there. I kind of expected that because on Lansing we were jump companies. We had two-man jump company on the outlining stations because at that time we had three stations, and then in the center one maybe you have two guys. So at the most you have 6 or 5 guys. It all depended. It was kind of crazy, but what we did in Buffalo Grove was I'm sorry, when I got there, it's like, so, Billy, one of the things that's going to happen here, and it was all senior guys, like I said, 75% or more of with guys with 15 years or more on. Um, we switched off on the ambulance. So like, Billy, you're not married to the ambulance. So you'll do 2 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off. And when we started, we did a little more than that, but we always got a day off.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine called me from Cal City, Mike Ricky, and he's like, "Hey, how long are you on the box for?" I go, "What do you mean, Mike?" And he's like, "Yeah, how long?" He goes, "I got a good probably 5, 7, 8 years. I don't know." I go, "No, I rotate off the box every 2, 3, 4 times." He's like, "You serious?" And then with Larry Lazan on my second full year there, it was amazing because I was on and off every other day.
Yeah.
So I know seniority plays a huge part in it in the fire service, and I firmly believe in seniority. But maybe some things have to change for a department to get the guys to stay, so they're not stuck on a box and burning themselves out.
Well, yeah, because there's
You know?
people I know of people that have left an organization where that's what it's strictly seniority based and went somewhere else, because they were
Yeah,
like, I'm not gonna work on an ambulance for 15 years with no chance of doing anything fire related.
yeah,
Like, and that department, like, there are places where, like, the ambulance crew, those two guys jump onto whatever fire piece. That was not
yep,
the case where he worked. Nothing. You got no chance of doing anything fire related. So he left.
yeah.
But I yeah, I don't know. Maybe something's got to give at some point, right? Like, as
We
it
get
keeps drying up,
yeah.
if staffing and our staffing models really are what is keeping people from coming into the job, something's got to give at some point, right? Maybe
Yeah.
we're
And I
almost
don't,
at that.
I'm assuming same thing with you guys right now. EMS calls are up,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So EMS calls are up for us again this year. I don't know how many more we'll get this year if we stay, or if we plateaued last year, but they're up as of right now. And because of that, it's nice for when a guy comes in and a senior guy goes, I have my senior guy, Dennis Quill, is amazing when it comes to, certain days. He's like, "Hey man, I'll go in the box," and I appreciate that. He'll go and take it's my turn. He actually said that the other day. He doesn't get on there much because he's my engineer, but when he does, I appreciate it because it's like I don't have to tell him where to go. He just right away goes over there and says, "Hey, it's my turn on the box, dude. I drove the last 2 days." That's awesome, and guys appreciate that when it's like, "Oh no, you know what? I'm gonna break. I'm gonna go backwards, or I'm driving the engine or I'm sorry, the tower." Because like I said, it's not a set position for us. It's if you're one of the guys in the rotation, you're one of the guys.
Yeah.
But
Larry's saying it's better to rotate, right, and for morale and
yeah,
keep both sets of skills sharp. He's right. Yeah. Like, beating the crap out of someone for 15 years in an
yeah.
ambulance when you could rotate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really nice what we do in Buffalo Grove, and what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that Buffalo Grove has everything right by no means. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, the guys got together and made it better, and we do that every day. We have the ability to, and I do that every day. I don't tell you where to go. If you want me to do that, I'm more than welcome, or I will do it in a second. And you may not like it, so you better keep your mouth shut. But if you rotate evenly and take care of each other, I'm all for it. But that one day when someone takes advantage of it, no, you know what? You're going on the box.
Yeah.
But I don't want to have to do that. And right now, I don't know of one day that I had to do that. I may have suggested one day because it's like, hey man, you've been you've been on the box a lot. You need to get off. Or hey, you know what? You got something going on tomorrow. I need you backwards. So you're fresh. That's what you do. You take care of your guys.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I know we're going to lead into something about when it comes to guys and taking care of your guys, but you have to take care of your guys as a leader. You have to look out for them. You have to make sure they're good.
Yeah, let's talk about that then. So the quote that you sent me was how important it is to be there. Well, when you say you're going to be there.
Oh
So
yeah.
let's talk about taking care of people.
So none of my shit's. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
None of my stuff. Yeah, none of my stuff is original. I'm going to be honest with you. Everything I have is borrowed from somebody. And my battalion chief in charge of training, he always said copyright means the right to copy. And what I loved about Chief Leidig is he was always that guy that said, if you ever need anything, call me. I'll give you everything I have. So you don't have to invent. You don't have to create a new wheel. I got the wheel, so I'm going to give it to you. And this instructor said it best. He said, when you say you're going to be there for them. When you say you're going to call them. When you say you're going to come over and do it, do it. Don't say, you know what, thoughts and prayers, bro. That's the biggest BS in anything, because everybody says thoughts and prayers, but are they really there for you the day you need them? And I'll give an example of a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, who went through some stuff, and I knew he was hurting, and I knew he was hurting bad because it all snowballed on him, and I felt bad for him. So when he had this tragedy happen to him, I called him. I called my buddy or I'm sorry, my battalion chief first. I'm like, how's he doing? And he's like, he's doing good, but I'm sorry, he's like, he's not doing good, Billy. So I'm like, all right. So I called him the day after everything went down, and I'm like, how you doing? And he's just crying. He's just crying, dude. And I'm crying now. And I go, hey man, here's the deal. I'm gonna call you every day to make sure you're good. And you don't have to talk. You don't have to do anything. Just let me know when you're done, you're done. I'll let you know stuff going on. I'll keep you updated on stuff, but I want you to know I'm here for you. And I did it for a bunch of days, and I couldn't tell you how many days, and I missed a few days here and there, but I wanted to make sure my brother is taken care of, because when I talked to another individual, no names, but back in the day, and what this person experienced, this person said there is no brotherhood. This person said that the way they treated this person was terrible, and this person I really respected and liked a lot. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to do that. So I want a brotherhood. I believe in a brotherhood. When I was an electrician, I believed in a brotherhood in which people took care of me, and now it's my turn to take care of them. And I kind of expect them to take care of me too. In terms of making sure I'm good. But this person was not good at all. And him and I cried a couple times together, but he knew I was there for him. Did I make a difference? I hope I did. I don't really know. I never asked. That's not something I'm going to do. But, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to say, hey, I'll be there for you? Are you willing to do it? Are you willing to say, hey, I'll make you dinner and I'll bring it over and do it, so that they don't have to worry about it? Hey, do you want to, you know what? I know you have this going on. You want me to take care of it for you? When I was in Lansing, this is where I seen it. My wife's grandpa lived in town, and with Lansing, they would put out a page if there was a full arrest. Well, I knew the address. I'm like, oh man, this isn't good. So I go over there, working a full arrest. Joe Lash, one of my best friends, is in charge of the call, and we get to the hospital, and he's like, hey, what is with you, dude? Do you know this person? I go, that's Grandpa, Joe. I go, that's Erica's grandpa. He's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, no. He's like, why didn't you say anything? I go, no, I just wanted to help. And he's like, oh, dude. And next thing you know, we're at the hospital. The fire chief comes, a bunch of guys come to make sure I'm okay. And I'm like, I'm good, but I need to take care of my wife. And we did a lot of short hire backs back then in Lansing. And I had the night shift. So I had from 10 to 6. I had the night shift, and it was overtime. And one of the guys walks in, Buffy. He walks in and he's like, hey, Billy. He goes, I see you have overtime tonight. I go, yeah. He goes, I'm taking it for you. I go, well, thanks, Buff. I really need that because I got to make sure my wife's good. He goes, and I owe you 8 hours, so you take the overtime. I'm like, what? No, 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 no. We're even. You're doing me a solid, bro. And he's like, no. He goes, you're getting the overtime. I owe you 8 hours because you did me a solid before. You keep the overtime. That's what it's about. It's that looking out for the guys and being there for the guys and saying you're going to be there when you're supposed to be there. And it could be a phone call. It could be sending them food. It could be sending them a text saying, "Hey, how you doing?" Because I've done that too, where I did it to my friend, and I wish I didn't call him. I wish I would have texted him saying, "Just thinking of you, brother." That's all And sometimes that's what they need, but they don't need thoughts and prayers. They don't need words that aren't really there. What they need is a brother to come over and take care of them. Hey, man, I cut your grass for you. I know you got some stuff going on. I took care of you. Hey, I took care of this for you because that's what we do. Hey, I covered a shift for you. And that's one of the things I love about my brothers and sisters on Buffalo Grove is we've done that where it's like, hey, let's take care of this guy. Something's going on at home. He needs help. And what I love about it, Alex, is we went in there, and I was willing to do it for a blue shirt too. If it got to, if there's an open spot, I'll go work for him for a day. I'll give him one of my sick days because that's what you do. You take care of him because it will come full circle. It does. It always does. Because if you have 99% of the guys doing it, it will come full circle. If it doesn't, then you did a good deed. But you have to say, if you're going to be there for the guy, be there for the guy. Just don't use words and be like, oh, I said it and I feel proud of myself. No, that doesn't work like that. And nothing's better than when you put out a page saying, hey, so-and-so's got this going on. I need guys to cover the next 5 shifts. And they're done even before you could pick up the phone. It was amazing when that happened recently. That's because the brotherhood or the brothers took care of the brother, the brothers and sisters took care of the brothers. That's what you do. And I think a lot of that stems from you get to get to that point. You talked about it on another episode, but sitting around the table talking with the guys, knowing their family, knowing their wife, knowing their kids. Now I'm really bad with names, and I hate the fact that I'm really bad with names, but the best I can do is hey, how are the kids doing? How are your kids doing? And I know he has 2 kids. Are they in the baseball? What are they doing? And I believe in that. I believe in knowing about their family. I believe in, hey man, bring your family over so that, we can meet them and we can know them. And so that when you say something to your wife, hey, my Lieutenant Billy Navarro, oh, I never met him. I think that's terrible. I think that's terrible when wives don't know you, especially your own guys' wives don't know you. So for me, it's like, I told the guys the other day, I go, you don't have to ask me if the kids want it. Just give me a heads up just to make sure we ain't got nothing going on. But if you want your son and daughter to come out and hang out for a little bit, do it. Let them jump all over the truck and check it out. But we need to get back to doing it. But the only problem is, Alex, is that the part is everybody lives really far away. Everybody lives really far away, and it's hard for them to come out. But for me, I used to love Sunday dinners with families where Battalion Chief Barna used to, and Battalion Chief Tubles used to bring in the families and say, hey, everybody, let's come over. Well, we'll go to Station 26 and have dinners together. Why? Because now my wife is meeting Battalion Chief Barna, Battalion Chief Tubles, is meeting my lieutenants, is knowing them. I know a lot of people because they call me up and say, hey, can you help me with electrical work? So I know a lot of family members because I'm going over there and helping them. But I want my wife to know all the family members so that this way, if something happens, they're there for her too. That's where that I think where you say that, hey, I got you, I'm there for you, brother. It's because we forged relationships at the dinner table where after dinner, there's not one day that I know of that we're not sitting at the dinner table for 2 hours. Either we're watching a movie, we're talking about, how we're going to fix life in general, when we know we can never fix life. I'm sorry, fix the world and the world's problems, but we're doing it and we're joking around. And there's nothing better, Alex, that when I'm in the lieutenant's office doing something and you hear some amazing laughter and I'm thinking, man, I'm missing out, FOMO big time, but I have stuff to do. That's what I think the fire service is about. That's what it should be about. We run calls, we come back, and we're family. And one of the biggest things is at the dinner table. And I know this kind of transformed into something else, but for me, that dinner table is everything to me. In the morning, when we're talking about what they did the night before, in the afternoon, when we're talking about what we did for training and stuff that we're doing for the day, and at the dinner table, when we're just having fun, and you're forging them relationships to build a strong relationship so that this way, when something goes and you need a hand, I know Dennis Quill is going to be the first one to be like, hey, I'll be there for you. Because, quick example, I cut my face open from here to here, and I think I may have told you about that. And long story short, cut it open that high or that big, went to the hospital. Doctor was going to stitch me up, and I was like, before you do that, can my wife take a picture? He's not happy because it's raining outside, and it was the plastic surgeon they actually called in. um he goes, why do you want to take a picture of this? I go, well, my wife needs to take a picture because at the firehouse they're going to bet on it. They're going to bet to see how many stitches. He goes, are you serious? I go, yeah. And his whole demeanor changed. He's like, heck yeah. So Erica takes a picture, and then he gets the forceps and he opens it up, and he's like, take a picture like that now. And Erica takes a picture, and she's like, I gotta sit down. And what happens? The guys start betting on it. And here's where my point of the story is when that happened. It was a crazy storm day, and as soon as we put the phone call out to like my battalion chief, hey, I'm not going to be in work, and Erica let a few people know. There must have been 4 or 5 phone calls of people saying, Erica, what do you need? I'll be right over. Hey, what's going on in your basement that I need to go and help? I know Danny Pasquarella, a guy that I do electrical with. He found out about it, and he called Erica and said, hey, I could be there for you. What do you need? And Erica's like, no, 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 we're good. That's what the brotherhood's about. The brotherhood is when something needs to happen, guys are there to make that happen, and if we lose that, we're in trouble. That's what we're known for. I know cops are individuals, but we're family. We work together as a team. We need to make sure that team is good and okay. And how do you do that? You talk to the guys. You make sure they're good. At the start of the day. I think somebody. Oh, you know what? Jimmy said it last podcast, but I love Jimmy. I
Yeah.
worked with Jimmy a lot. We trained with him a lot. Theobald is the best dude ever. But he said it. There's some days that you need to go backwards. Tell me. I asked everybody good. Anybody need anything? But there is a day where Billy isn't going to be good, and I told the guys there's a day that I'm not going to be good, and my back was really sore one day, not feeling good. I told the guys, hey guys, you know what? I can work. I don't have a problem, but I'm not going to overexert myself. You guys got to cover me today. And they're like, yep, we got you. That's the fire service. It's when someone's got something going on. Hey, you're either going backwards, but if you're really bad, I'm sending you home. That's the deal. I need to make sure not only our guys are good, but if they're not good, I'm going to send them home and say, we'll figure this out, but you got to go home and take care of yourself. Cause I see something that isn't good. And if you need somebody, I'm going to have somebody make sure you're good. That's what it's about, is making sure the guys are good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's classic traditional fireman. That's what we're supposed to be. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
And Alex, you and I both know that we're becoming friends, and you work right next door, and if I'm ever there and we're on the same shift, we're going to be working a lot together. But if you ever needed something, it'd be like, yeah, I got you, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're on a different fire department. We take care of each other the best we can. And if you've seen it when one of our guys has cancer, and we had that one time, I couldn't believe how many guys came out and from other departments as soon as they heard about it and were there for us. I had a guy from Bensonville that I love the guy, but he called me up and he's like, hey, what's going on with your guy, man? I'm like, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. He's like, I'll be there. And he showed up. And how awesome is that? That we're there for each other, and we're not even on the same department.
Yeah.
That's what the brotherhood's about, and it should always be about that way.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Absolutely. So, audience, because we still got people in listening, which is fantastic, and I love to see double digits for sure, listening to what Billy's got to say. If you have questions, please throw them in. Throw them in the chat, and I will ask them to him. We kind of went through some of the stuff that we've pretty much had written down. However, there's still plenty of time for you to ask those questions. So throw them in there, and I will throw them in his direction.
So can we veer off a little bit here, Alex?
Absolutely, yeah.
Something. One thing I want to touch base with you, and I talked to you about it when we went out for breakfast, is the people that are really the backbone of the fire department, and for us that's Courtney Michaels. She's the assistant there to the chief. That's the administrative assistant for the chief, and without her, we couldn't be who we are, because she's the one doing the things that we don't have to do. And she's the one that's making sure we're good. She's the one that making sure we get paid. You're always going to her for something with a problem. You know what I mean? And what I loved about her was um, shoulder surgery, off on light duty, working at the station. I had my own office, which was pretty awesome. Um, but they're like, "Hey, you're on the TRT, Billy. You got to write all the SOPs for TRT." And I'm like, redo them all. I'm like, oh, okay, And like what Chief Leidig said to me, he always said, if you want something, you could always call and make sure I'll give it to you. So I go to Courtney and I'm like, "Hey, you're really good with all the assistants, right? Administrative assistants, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." I go, "Can you throw out just a page to them and in Division 1 and see what they have for SOPs?" I BS you not, bro. In less than a half an hour, 45 minutes, I had 5 sets of TRT. Yeah, that quick. She's a resource that we sometimes forget about, or that position is a resource that sometimes we forget about to thank. But I would like that time right now to thank each and every one that has done that job for each and every department, because without them, we wouldn't be who we are. And with us, we've had 4 of them in the time I've been there, and each and every one of them has helped me out one way or another. And so it's a position that we can't forget about, and we need to include them in our family.
I
We
agree.
need them to
Yeah.
be part of our family.
Yeah. For me, Barb, Lori, and Jennifer, who just actually left for another job in Lake Zurich. So we're looking for someone to come in and join. But all 3 of them were. Barb was, when I was a 20-year-old kid, was beyond nice to me. Made sure I kind of knew what was going on. She was a sweet lady, and yeah, and Lori was always awesome the whole time I worked in Antioch. Anytime I needed something, and I went back a handful of times and taught and did things, and it was just right away on it. And Jennifer was like, I don't know what we're gonna do with Jennifer leaving us. Like, just being completely blunt, she did so much stuff that, like, people have no idea the amount of work that she was doing. And I forgot we did talk about that. You're spot on. Whoever's in your office doing that is invaluable to an organization. Can almost make or break an organization if you
Yeah.
really think about it. Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, they know everything, in terms of what's going on, because they hear from both sides. Um, they're there every single day. They're the chief and the deputy chief, and however your rank system goes, they're the right hand man or woman. They're there for them, but they're also there for us, making sure we got everything we need. And anytime I've ever asked, like I said, I've known 5 in my lifetime. There was one in, when I was in Lansing, and anytime I needed anything, I would go to them, or I need help with anything. It's amazing the resources they have. But Courtney, yeah, it was amazing, because she's like, "What do you need, Billy?" I go, "I just need this." And she's like, "I got you." And literally in 35, 45 minutes, I have all these SOPs. And she's like, "Hey, I sent them out to you already." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" She's like, "I got Arlington's, I got my prospects, I got Wheelings. Yeah, you got them all." And I'm like, "Oh, that was awesome."
Yeah.
So we got to thank them for the work that they put in, because they do a lot of thankless work that they don't get thanked for. And, it's a good forum to just say, "Hey, thanks for what you do."
Yeah.
And let's not forget about them.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of us are just knuckle draggers, and they're the ones that basically help us figure out how to type on Microsoft Word or turn a PDF into a Word document.
Yeah.
But even if it's something that's small, like I couldn't agree more. And I thank you for bringing that up, because I forgot to put that in our notes after we talked about that. And yeah, invaluable, completely invaluable.
What was the other one he used? Booger picker?
That's a Jimmy T-ism. I'm not going to steal Booger Eater from him. That's the hazmat guys. And I don't know if one of my shift mates, Jason, if Krause he's dipped in and out, but I make fun of him all the time about hazmat, because he's a big hazmat guy, and I call him a Booger Eater. So hazmat's not my thing. And kudos to you if you want to get in that suit and go run around with paper that changes color. That's fine. That's all you, not me. But that's beside the point. I digress. Well,
Excuse me.
man, I hate that it's these last 5. So again, if you got questions, throw them in. Please throw them in. But for now, and I can't brand these because I'm stealing from the weekly scrap. Maybe I should do 6 so it's not 5 questions. So it's exactly the same as the scrap. Either way, they're different ones. So bear with me. And if you don't know what the weekly scrap is, I'm sorry. It's another great podcast that inspired me to kind of get started with this stuff. I actually did an episode, shameless plug, with his name's Corley Moore. I don't remember the episode number, but really cool thing if you're looking to listen to other stuff. But anyway, back to you. You mentioned a mistake earlier, right, with the air
Yeah.
pack, and again, we talked about the value of sharing your mistakes and learning from them. So, could you maybe share another one, another
Oh yeah.
mistake that you had made and learned from?
So it's more in general. The problem I have is I have a short fuse, and got in a situation with a supervisor in which it didn't go very well, and it's because of a short fuse that I have, and said a few things I shouldn't have said. Was very unprofessional. Uh, I should have kept my cool, and I didn't. And I learned a lot from it after the fact from Battalion Chief Collins, because he taught me that I need to learn how to listen, not listen to respond. And it really hurt me because that's not who I am. But I was so emotional and wound up that I unloaded, and it didn't look good for me. And it was crazy because a blue shirt came up to me and goes, because as I was leaving the station, he seen how I was, and this person I wasn't expecting it from, and he pulled me off the next day and goes, "Hey Billy, can I talk to you?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Can I talk to you as a friend?" And I'm a lieutenant. He's a blue shirt. And I'm like, "Yeah, Jimmy, what's up?" And he's like, "Everything that went down yesterday was not good." He goes, "You did not look good. And it was not a good look for you. And you can't allow that to happen again." And I'm like, and I guess he thought he was going to get a little resistance from me, in terms of me, kind of getting defensive. But I was the total opposite. I was like, "Jimmy, wait a minute, what?" And he's like, "Yeah, the way you left out, the way you did this, the way you did that was no good." And I'm like, "Oh, are you kidding me, Jimmy?" He goes, "No." And I'm like, "You know what, Jimmy, thank you." And he's like, "What?" I go, "Thank you." I go, "Thank you for bringing a friend and coming up to me and having that hard discussion, because you're literally, kind of taking a jab at somebody, um, in a good way to let them know that they're doing wrong, but or that they've done wrong." And he's like, "No, you got to do better than that, and you got to be better." And he goes, "You're a lieutenant, and I didn't like that, seeing you that way." And it made me realize that I needed to do better right then and there. And I couldn't believe how great of a friend he was to me, that he can just go up to, because a lot of times, this too, Alex, is people won't come up to you and talk to you about it. They just kind of let you run with it. "Hey, you see what Billy did yesterday?" And he was like, he did the total opposite. He as a friend, he came up to me, and then he's like, "That wasn't good. You didn't look good. You can't allow your emotions to get the best of you." And like I said, this has come from a guy that I was never expecting it from, and he was more of a senior guy, but he put himself out there to tell me that I messed up. And I love him to this day for it. I still got a short wick. I'm still working on it. But now when I talk to listen and understand rather than, I'm sorry, when I listen, I listen to listen and understand rather than to respond. Because as soon as you go to respond, everything that person's saying in my head, my opinion, is not being heard anymore. So if you're coming at me and I'm right away looking to rebuttal, and I'm not paying attention to you anymore, I'm not hearing what you have to say. And it's about being professional, like Sammy Vega said. I stole a lot from Sammy. I love hearing him. I've heard him on a lot of podcasts, but he said you have to be professional. And bottom line, everything we do, we have to be professional. And he's absolutely right. And I was not professional that day. And it's something that I'll go to the end saying that I really messed up on. I did apologize for my actions. I learned, because after the fact that BC Collins was in the middle, and he kind of make sure everything went well in terms of a second discussion. But in the end, he took me off to the side, and he's like, "Billy," he goes, "I love you as a friend, but you don't listen. You right away want to respond. You right away want to, jump in, and you're interrupting." And he goes, "You did a good job of not interrupting at times, but other times it's like he just had to get a point across, and you didn't allow him to." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." And he's like, "You can't do that. You got to listen to what he has to say, even if it's however long he's saying it. You can't intervene and respectfully say, 'Can I say something?' But you can't interrupt." And it's really messed me up for a while there, because it's like I need to be better, I need to do better, but I'm not. And I learned it from my wife too, because when we have discussions, I was doing the same thing to her, and unbelievably calm. She would just take a deep breath and look at me and say, "Okay, all right, well, let me say what I have to say." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So she kind of is teaching me how to just take a deep breath and work with it. But for that instance, it's my wife and BC Collins who's really helped me to realize that the short wick is not a good thing, or the short fuse is not a good thing for me. So I do get loud then too. So
I mean,
um,
I feel you. We share that. And honestly, the listening part, what we're doing right now, actually helped me learn how to listen.
yeah,
Like, we talked about LDDM because I'm going next week, and that was
amazing
some of
class.
that was some of the pre-course work. There was a TED talk I think that they had in there, 15 minutes. It was about active listening, and like it's not concepts I hadn't heard before, like because of trying to improve myself. But yeah, it was the same thing, like listening to listen, not listening to respond. Like, yeah, uh, active listening, right?
What Alex was talking about is it's LDDM. That's a class that's given by IFSI, and it's leadership development and decision making. It's an amazing class that it's 5 days long. You do 4 days of pretty much classwork, and the fifth days you're running a live fire. And they have three different areas. You got a firefighter, you got a lieutenant's area, and then you got a chief's area, session. So you can have chiefs, you're gonna have chiefs, you're gonna have lieutenants, and you're gonna have firefighters in that class. And what it does, it challenges your morals and values. You get in a seat, they give you scenarios. They do it by the Socratic way of learning. And what that means is, in a nutshell, the students are learning from the students. You pit two different opinions against each other, and then you let them go at it and try to figure out what's right and what's wrong. And the one thing about LDDM, sometimes there is no right answer. It's just what your morals and your values and what you believe in is what you're going to do. And Alex and I talked about it, and there was a case where I went one way and the whole class went against me. And I had what, they weren't going to change the way I felt. That's the way I felt, and that's how it was. And I had some guys pretty like in my face, like, "You would do that?" And I'm like, "That's what I signed up for." And there's some amazing teachers in there. And I got the opportunity they asked me to teach with it, and I did for a little bit, but it wasn't my type of style of teaching. You got to really pay attention. You got to really work with what the guys are saying and reading off it. And I've never been a really fast reader that understands very well, so I stepped away from it. But when it comes to the class itself, if anybody gets to take that class, it's an amazing class. It makes you, like I said, it's going to challenge you every way. It's that class that it's going to make you be comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's going to make you sometimes realize that you have to follow the rules. And there's sometimes where if you don't follow the rules, you better be ready to take the responsibility, because now you're responsible for it. If you're that supervisor that takes, and they come to you and you're just like, "Okay, well, I'll help you with it." Well, now you're responsible for that, and you'll go down with the ship too. So you need to realize what you're taking responsibility for. But it's a great class in every sense of it, because morals, values, and they even do firefighting skills in it, on how to run a fire. It's an amazing 5 day class. And if anybody ever gets a chance to take it, please do.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I was a little hesitant at first because it sounded like a lot of like role play stuff, and I'm awkward with some of that classroom stuff. But I've you being one, but multiple people have told me that it's not that, and that I'm going to enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to it for sure. Um, you've mentioned you make no bones about thanking the people throughout your career by name who have really helped you. And I know, like, I usually ask this question to give people an opportunity to do that. And it's who influenced you the most earlier in your career. We've kind of talked through that, but is there anyone recently in your career that maybe you've
Oh yeah.
caught into that has kind of reframed maybe the way that you think about things or your approach to things?
So when I was becoming a lieutenant, when I was next on the list, and then when I got promoted, I worked for Battalion Chief Joel Alexander. And Joel Alexander, his nickname's Vinny. Loved him to death because he was the type of guy that sat you in the office and he'd close the door and say, "Okay, hey, you're the next one up. you need to be ready for this. You need to do this. You need to do that. And he prepared me for becoming a lieutenant. And then what he did was he gave me, real life scenarios of what's going on today. He's like, hey, this is what's going on today. This is how I'm handling it, but that's going to be your responsibility. He's like, you're going to be responsible for that. So what I loved about Joe Alexander, and he's one of my mentors, is that he was straight up in your face that this is what you need to be good. And I want you to be good because you're a product of me. And I want you to pass it on as you go along too, but you have to be good. You have to handle what's yours, and what's yours is yours. So if you have a problem, handle it at your level, and then bring it to me if you need to. And he called me out one day, and this is what I loved about him. I went in there, and he's a very vulgar person, and that's why he got the name Vinny, as being an Italian, but he's not Italian. And I get in the office, he closes the door, and he's like, hey, you F this, you did this, you messed up this, you did that. I need, what the heck, you need to do better, get your head out of your, butt. And he's just laying into me. And I knew him. So I wasn't like, I was more mad at myself and embarrassed at myself that I didn't get what I needed to done. But what I loved about him was at the end of it, he's like, all right, we good? And I'm like, yeah, I know what you want. I know your expectations. I messed up. I'll take care of it. He's like, okay, so what's up for the weekend, dude? What are you doing? And I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah, I was like, he's mad at me for that, but then it's like, we're back to being
Yeah,
friends.
it's not
He was
personal.
able
Yeah.
to, yeah, it's not personal. It's like you do your job, and if we're good after that, then we BS'd about something else for like 10, 15 minutes. And he's like, now get out of here and take care of what you need to, and he was always about mentoring, and he was always making sure that I knew what I was doing. And then when I became when I got promoted, he was that type of guy that sat me in the office. He's like, hey, that fire report was good, but I want it better. So this is how we're going to make it better. And I go in there, and he would just tear my report up, and I'm like, man, why did I even do it? And he's like, no, and he fixed it, he restructured it. He goes, this is how they want it, Billy. He goes, and that's what I loved about it, because a lot of times you get in this position and you don't know, or you don't have a battalion chief who's right there helping you with everything. He just assumes you know everything, and he never assumed you knew it. He just went and make sure you know how to do it. So if I had 15 years on, he'd still be doing that for me, and it's not annoying to me because he wants to make sure we're good and we know what we're doing. Like I told you, he was the same guy that with the SCBA for me when I wanted to do work at the calf site in the maze. He was all about it, and let me make sure you're good. And as a lieutenant, he was the same way to me. So yeah, he's another guy that influenced me a lot, because he was always there for me, making sure I was good, making sure I had what I needed to. Love him to death. And even right now, my deputy chief, we have a new deputy chief now, and congratulations, Chief Kane, who's going to be our new fire chief. And I can go to him, and I can go to him and say, because I never cross that line of supervisor to lieutenant. I don't cross that door of the battalion chiefs without letting him know that I'm going to go talk to the deputy. And when I do that, I let the battalion chief know what we're talking about, so he's not left out of the loop, chain of command. But I don't go to him for anything like that. I don't. I always try to fix it at my level or at the battalion chief's level, because he doesn't need to be worried about my problems. But when I have a problem and I go, hey, chief, I need to talk to you as a friend. He's amazing. He's like, all right, Billy, you may want to think of this. You may want to do this. You may want to do that. And like I said, he's that type of chief that, he's the fireman's fireman. And he's there to make sure you know what you're doing and do it well. He's there if you're going to make a decision, make a freaking decision, and we'll talk about it afterwards. He's there. When the last fire we had, he was so involved, and it was so awesome to see him in there working with us. Um, Love him to death, and I can go into his office, I can close the door, and I say, just as friends, I just need to talk to you this. And he's like, he'll give me some sound advice, and it's pretty cool, but it's a little embarrassing because he's a year younger than me. So, should I know everything? I don't know everything, but at least I have that go-to guy that I can say, hey, chief, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And like I said, I never crossed the boundaries of chain of command, because I don't think that's fair to him. Any problem that I have is my problem, not his. And Yeah, there's because when I was on light duty, him and I spent a lot of time together of just sitting in there, and he told me a lot about, his family life. I told him about my family life, told him about, my ambitions. And I'll always say, yeah, Chief, I got 2 more years, 2 to 5 more years. He's like, oh, you got more than that. You can do 8 easy. And I'm like, Chief, I don't know, man. And he's like, you could stay longer, Billy. We want you here. And I'm like, I appreciate that. I really do. But um, those are two people that really have changed who I am at this point, and where I go from here, I don't know yet. But I really enjoy being the lieutenant part of it. Yeah, love them two guys, another one was Ron Tubles. Ron Tubles taught me how to be, you don't have to be, you need to be respected as a leader, not feared. And he was that guy that got the respect from the guys, the guy that, was part of us, that got things going, that kept us like this. When he came to Black Shift, we started doing a heck of a lot more because he got everybody involved. He brought the family aspect into it, back into the fire and into our shift. And it was amazing because we did so much. We'd go to Whirly Ball after work and hang out. He does boat day up at his place still. Now that he's retired, he does boat day. Um, he does poker day at his place. He's retired and he still has guys coming over to his place. He's keeping that tight knit part of it, the fire of us guys together. And another guy that changed my life in the way he sees things. Because I seen him go. A lot of the guys I'm working with right now went from blue shirts to where they are now. I mean, deputy chiefs, battalion chiefs, lieutenants. I seen pretty much everybody get promoted, and it's pretty awesome to see when you worked with that guy in the box. I worked with Ronnie on the box, and now he's my battalion chief. And I worked for him any day. I'm hoping that the first two guys on the list, either Danny Pasquarella or Alfredo Caballero, when they get promoted, I get to work with them two guys because those two are my best friends. I would love to work for them. I'd love to be a part of the crew with them. Probably won't happen, but those are two guys that I really respect, that have less time than me, that are amazing leaders, that are going to be battalion chiefs very soon. And I can probably get a chance to work with them. So I'm excited about that. But like two guys, I have a hell of a lot of mentors. But my mentor is some I take a little piece from,
Yeah, yeah.
And I appreciate each and every one of these guys that have done good for me and have my back. But yeah, those are guys, and always Chief Leidig. Chief Leidig is one amazing dude. Every time I'm in a class with him, I go up and say hello, and we talk for 10, 15 minutes about everything. He's a guy that if I needed to, I can call him right now and say, hey, I need a favor, man. Can you help me with this? And you know him, you know how he is.
Yeah.
Hey, I got you, man. He's what the fire service should be. That, it doesn't cost anything to be his friend other than go buy him a coffee one day if you need, if you're with him. Um, love Chief Leidig because there was a time I was in a class with him and I needed some help with it, and he's like, call me. I'm like, dude, you're at home. He's like, no, bro, call me. I'll take care of this for you. I'll do this for you. And he's the reason why I'm on the show today. And when he texts me, I'm like, oh, dude, Chief's texting me. What is it? I was like, and he's like, hey, Billy, how you doing? I'm like, hey, Chief, how's it going? Congratulations on your retirement. I wish I was there for you because a week before then, one of our guys retired and he was at the station, and him and I talked for 10, 15 minutes. And I was like, congratulations. He's like, it's short lived, Billy. I'm doing this now. I'm like, good for you, But then he's like, hey, I got a podcast that you would be good for. I'm like, come on, Chief, why would I be good? He's like, because you're you. And then he hit me up like 2 weeks ago, and he's like, hey, I'm excited about seeing you on this podcast. I'm like, thanks, Chief, I appreciate it. But I go, I'm nervous as hell. And he's like, don't be, just be Billy. And I'm like, what's just be Billy? you know? Um, but yeah, I've had a lot of good influences in me, and I can go on and on and on, but I think we'll end on that one because we'll be here for another 2 hours. But
But it's
yeah,
awesome. I mean,
um,
latch on to people, and like you said, there's nothing wrong with having a ton of people that mentor you,
yeah.
right? You
And
take something from
what
everyone.
Yeah, and what people need to realize, Alex, is that it's not always up here in age. It could be someone younger. You just have to be humble to be able to take, their none was better than I was dealing with something at work. I was trying to figure something out, and a younger guy goes, Billy, don't worry about that. That's not your problem. And I'm like, Jay, I go, but this and this, and he goes, Billy, it's not your problem, man. you got this. You make it your own. Do this, do that. I'm like, holy cow, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I respect the fact that he jokingly and respectfully helped me in a situation that I needed. And it was just, open talk. I was just venting. And he's like, you're good, Billy. Don't worry about it. He built me up. This
Yeah.
is a younger guy. So
Yeah.
we need to remember that just because they're younger or don't have as much experience in the fire service we do, they may have a really good head on their shoulders,
Yeah.
and that's another thing. Like yourself, Alex, is you're huge into training. You're making changes in your department, but then you have older guys that are like, well, he's young. What does he know?
Yeah.
And it's like he knows. He took the class. He did this. He did that. Let him run with it. If he's gonna do the training, let him do it. And talk to him. Don't talk down to him. He's making the department better. Why are we pooping on him? And it's like it's sometimes it's jealousy. Sometimes people are afraid of you. But you're doing good things, and please don't let it ever stop you from being who you are. Because Alex, you're going to have a lot of times where people are, looking for you to stumble. They're throwing out a friend of mine used to say, they're throwing out the blocks, Billy. They're throwing out the blocks because they want to see you trip and fall. Don't worry about that, man. You're going to do great. I love what you're doing now. I love what you're doing with this podcast, getting people involved and talking about everything and anything, to maybe change something in what someone may be thinking, or, hey, I need to take that class now. Rob, when the guy from Miami-Dade, Rob Ramirez, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Now I'm vested into, learning more about what he was putting out in his podcast. It
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like you and I both talked. He talked for what, like an hour and a half, and I wish he would have talked for 4 hours.
I know. Yeah. He's got some pretty cool information and insight on RIT and Maydays and everything. He's the first person that I heard basically maybe crap all over Lunar is probably a harsh way to put it, but he's the first one that I heard actually go, why are we doing this to a guy who's under stress? Just tell him
Yeah.
to let you know what's going on with him, and we take care of the rest.
You
Like,
know how many? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're good. Like, but
Yeah.
that's so simple. Like,
Yeah.
I'm,
His
yeah,
his knife in an elevator. You know
I
how many
love it.
times I
I
used that
know.
already?
Yeah,
The knife in an elevator is like holy crap, And if anybody, whoever's on here, it's a great podcast that he did. I'm sorry, episode that he did with this firefighter from Miami-Dade. And what I loved about it is basically saying that we need to be in stressful situations to where we're so stressed out and we have to make a decision. He talked about being in a collapse, a real life collapse, and then it getting worse. And the only thing he can think about was him getting out. And I'm like, that happens, and when do we train that in our system to be able to say, oh, like, take a deep breath, take a step back, this is what's going on. We don't have live
no.
trainings like that.
That training is going to hurt your ego. That training is going to make you feel bad about yourself. Like, there's no way around that, but it's necessary. And that was
Yeah.
one thing I learned when I went to RIT was like a class like that is designed. I wouldn't say it's designed for you to fail, but like that's part of the game. Like you
Yeah.
have to be so mentally taxed, and the only way that you can get through it is to grow and to build up. That's something that I think, like you said, figuring out how to make that part of training. It's not a normal thing. And
No.
people take that way too far too, where they just yell at everyone all the time. That's not
That's not what
training
it's-
for
No.
stress. That's not the same. Or like the harassment drills for engineers, where they go through and open all the drains but don't tell you. That's not creating. You know what I mean? That's just being a dick. That's not really
Yeah.
teaching somebody how to manage their stress. So
And I was watching a short, YouTube short, and it was military, and they were showing you how they deal with it. And one of them was they're laying on the side of the pool and they have their masks on, so it's covering their face like that. And then what they do is they fill up that mask with water, as you're working out doing stuff. And what happens is you have a tendency of breathing through your nose. Now you're choking on water. They're in at the end the instructor was telling them, this is what you need to do. We want it so that you don't panic. And he was showing them how to do it. And he was telling them, this is what you have to do. You don't panic. And then when someone would panic, they would like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Put your mask back on. Let's do it again. It's exactly what Rob was teaching.
yeah,
And it's funny now that I see it, I'm like, Yeah, we're in life death situations. We can be in life and death situations. And how are we going to cope with that? Are we going to panic, or are we going to be at least a little level headed to where we can make a decision and get our guys out? Or if anything, get yourself out if you're in a situation by yourself. So yeah, it's that podcast was amazing. But I love what you're doing here. Please continue what you're doing. Don't let anybody, change the way you feel about training, because training, like I said, it is more important in my eyes than running calls, only in the sense that you can't run a call without having the training to back it up,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
appreciate all your kind words. I really do. I really do. I take it to heart. So thank you. Yeah. This is a lot of fun, and I enjoy doing this. So,
Yeah.
and it,
And
yeah.
you do make a difference. It made a difference in me. One of your questions is going to be when you lost a little of the ambition. I did lose it, after the second surgery and coming back and then realizing that I had to make up for what was going on. Make up for the lack of what I didn't have for almost being out 2 years. It was one injury after another, and almost being out 2 years, everything changed. So now I come in and software's changed, EMS has changed, the way we do scheduling's changed, and I'm trying to figure it all out, and I have a small window to figure out because as a lieutenant, who do they go to? Who do guys go to?
You?
Me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because it's like I've been out for the last 2 years. So I'm playing catch up now. I'm trying to figure things out. Now I'm feeling down. And I realized that it just kind of hit me with a brick wall that I need to be better. So little by little, I started getting the guys back in it, saying, hey, you know what, this is where we're going to start. And slowly we're going to get to here. And then I started listening to your podcast, and I'm like, man, I'm really ready to go now. I'm really ready to get myself to where my last 2 to 5 years, I'm going to trainings again. I'm going to go to outside trainings. Where I'm getting my guys involved. I got one of my guys. I was like, hey, you want to go to this class in Cal City? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, let's go. Yeah, we're going to man versus machine. So if you
Yeah.
want to go, it's May 4th, but we're going down there. You can ride with us,
Um,
but we're going to go down there, and it's a 1 day thing, and it's good because I'll get to see Sammy. I'll get to see a couple of the other guys I know from down there, but I miss them guys. But we're down the south side again,
yeah.
and but yeah, I mean, it's easy. It can be easy to lose your mojo, and sometimes you just need a swift kick in the butt to get you back moving. But it's stuff like this. Listen to your podcast and getting guys to come in here, talk about everything and anything. And like I said, Jimmy Theobald I love the guy. He talks about how he's not the smartest guy in the world, and then you hear him talking. He's like, he
He's
is an
pretty damn
accountant
smart,
guy.
right? If talking about
Yeah,
foam, well, I was like, whoa, I do
yeah,
not know anything about foam. We're going to have to talk about just that at some
right.
point. Yeah.
And I've been on one or two trainings with him in which we were instructors at the calf site, and he's just a lot of fun to be around.
Yeah.
And like you said, he talks as a fireman would, and he lets guys know like a fireman would, and that's what I love about him.
Yeah. Yeah. He speaks that language.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you answered that question,
yeah,
and I mean, well, what better thing to present than training gets you back in the game, right?
yeah.
100%. I couldn't
So
agree more.
it's funny, and like I said, I go on a lot of tangents and I talk a lot, but the fire chief, Chief Favreau, when he was our fire chief, came up to me out of nowhere. We're on the bay floor, we're BSing, having a good time, and some stuff was going on in the firehouse. I'm sorry, in general when it comes to training, or I'm sorry, it comes to morale and all that. And so he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, Billy," he goes, "Let me ask you a question." I go, "Yeah, Chief, what's up?" He goes, um, "Training. I'm sorry, not training. Morale. What would you do to fix it?" I go, Chief, I'm not in your spot, so I can't give you an honest answer. I go, I could give you an answer from my perspective, but from your perspective, I've never been a fire chief, so I don't know how to fix it at your level, but I know how to fix it at my level. And he goes, well, how would you fix it? I go, training. You don't understand how much training does for the guys. It creates for me, it's like if you have a really well thought out training, and you and I talked about it, what does it create? It creates competition, right? It creates a lot of BS between the guys. It creates, and another thing is when we get there, it's like, hey, Alex, how you been? How's your family? How you been?
Yeah.
What are your kids up to? it's a lot of getting back together and seeing the guys, because I'm telling you right now, between Station 27 and Station 25, we just don't see them guys other than on ambulance calls or training that we're doing together. So what better way to get these guys together to get that morale worked up again with good training that creates a little competition, a little, bit of crap talking to each other. That's how I see the fire service, and a lot of people may not agree with me, but if you have a solid training that you can create a little bit of competition, because we're all competitive.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. The majority of us are type A personalities that are competitive, that want to do better than the other person.
Yeah.
So, and case in point, um, we did a training recently last year in which it was an evolution that was timed. And I'm sorry, Chief Collins said, "This is how it's going to go. This is what we're going to do." Okay, dude, you know how much fun it was to do this training, and then all the crazy talk between the guys, and oh, we did it better than you. What is that going to create, Alex? It's going to create the next time. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to go practice with my guys because I seen where we're deficient on, and we're going to do that so the next time we're number one.
Yeah.
It kind of came out to who I thought would be number one, and I kind of figured that crew would be number one because they're really solid. But I want to beat them next time. That's me. That's the competitive nature in me. And now we have a little fun with it. There's that talk. There's a conversation. So when I said that to him, he kind of stepped back and thought about it. I go, I know you probably thought I was going to go a different area, but for me, it's training. It's getting the guys involved, and then for your in-house stuff, it's having fun things to do. I said BC Tubles taught me how to be a good leader as in terms of for the guys, and that we used to play in we had a little basketball hoop that we set up. It was me, Larry Lazan, and Larry's a big dude. It was Danny Pascarella. It was Ronnie Tubos. All of us, and it was guerrilla basketball, and it was so much fun. So for 2 hours, we're sweating on the bay floor, having a good time. No one got hurt, But it was guerrilla basketball. The ball was only this big, and there's no dribbling. It's just you going in as a fullback, running into somebody and throwing the ball up. We had music playing. It was just a lot of fun, and that's what gets guys together. And Ronnie also did it to where we had, and I know some guys are like, "Oh man, this is not a frat house," but everything's done. The day's done. We ran calls. It's 9 o'clock at night, and we had Nerf gun wars,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people are like, "Are you serious? This is so childish." I'm like, "Oh, I had fun." I mean, we gotta release some of it, and I know it's not agreed upon by everybody, but we're firemen. We took the day serious. We take the call serious, but we can have a little outlet. And if as long as it's no one's getting hurt and no one's starting a fight and we're all doing it out of fun, I don't see the problem in that. I know some people do, but for me, it was like we had a great time and people were making fun of us. Station 26, Black Shift, you guys are doing Nerf gun roars. Oh yeah. The
Sure.
banter that
Yeah.
came. And for me, it was like, yeah, we're doing that. Who cares? Yeah, we got videos of it too. We had a good time. We had I believe Battalion Chief Barna was in on it too at one time. And it was a great time. And we need to keep that. We need to have fun, but that's how you solve the problems of morale. And like right now, our morale is pretty good. So we got a good group of young guys, and we're having a lot of fun doing what we're doing, but we're also getting the job done. And that's the one thing that we teach is that when you go to calls, you run the calls and you do it right, you do it respectfully. you know. But when we get back to the station and it's lunchtime, we have a little fun, as long as it's respectful. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And it is. Guys know the limits. And sometimes it gets pushed, and sometimes other guys will be like, hey, I don't even have to do it. Oh, the dog's scratching on the door. He wants to come in.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah. But I mean that's what we need to do. Let me let him in.
Yeah.
Come on in. So I got a blind dog that knows his way all around the house. But yeah, we got the greatest job in the world. Let's not ruin it. Let's not
Yeah,
ruin it.
absolutely.
I mean, mistakes are always made. Stuff's gonna happen, but we fix it. We apologize. We help out wherever we can, but let's take care of our guys. Let's have fun doing what we do, and let's keep the tradition of being a fireman
Yeah.
honorable.
Absolutely.
Let's continue it. And I think we're doing a good job. I really do.
Yeah, I think the voice of reason is starting to get a lot louder for that, right? And
Yeah.
making it more acceptable. Maybe that wavered a little bit, over the last couple years, but I think it's starting to come back full force in a good way. So,
Yeah.
uh, if you were gonna put somebody who knows nothing about the fire service, right, and you wanted to give them a sense of what we're talking about, right, that
Yeah.
true like culture, what the fire service is really all about. One person, alive or dead, you know them or you don't know them, it doesn't matter. One person, who would it be?
So I got a tie. I know that's
That's
making a
okay.
look.
Do the
I
tie.
got a tie. The first one's going to be Joe Jones, San Antonio Fire Department. He's a battalion chief. Made his way up from firefighter all the way to assistant chief. Now he's a battalion chief. He's in charge of the union. But when you look at this guy and you talk to him, he's all business and he's all about honor and integrity. And this is what the fire service is about. This is what we do. He was in charge of training. He's done a little bit of everything. And guys that I've met that know him, love him, and will do anything for him because he's there for them, And if he had to talk in front of a group of guys, that's who I'd want because he's going to teach the integrity, the honor, this is what the fire service is. And not talking down to the people. And the other one is Chief Leidig. Chief Leidig, his passion, the way he talks about the job, the way he gives examples and what he's doing and how the brotherhood's a brotherhood, and this is the reason why you want to be a fireman. When he talks, I love to listen to him, and the classes that I've been in with him, and he honestly and truly cares. He does care about you, and his friendship doesn't cost you a nickel. It's just, let's have a little fun, and we have each other's back. But those are two guys that personally, so I can say like big names, but I like the more personable
No,
ones that
yeah.
I've had interaction with. Joe Jones is like a brother to me, and when we talk, it's funny because we'll talk just about fire, and he's over here, Billy, this is what I was what I encountered, in this fire, and what do you think of this? And he's grilling me because he wants me to be better. He wants to give me examples and see where I'm at. So maybe, and I'm like, he's teaching me, and he doesn't even know it, And when I went out there to see him get promoted to captain, um, you know, the fire chief was there, and everybody just talked him up, and he's there with the guys, and the guys love him, and he's telling me that the sole purpose of his job is to get his guys promoted, to get his guys to know their job, know it well, backwards and forwards, and then whatever I can do to get them promoted. And like I said, when he's talking in front of people, he's just amazing. He can um, he just gets you hyped up to be like, yeah, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be just like that dude because you look at him and he's built like a brick house. He looks like a fireman's fireman. And it was funny because with him being in charge of I'm sorry, he's a union president. He invited us down to walk in the parade. That's actually it's going to be coming up. We're actually going back out there again. So me and my wife are going to walk the parade with him, and you hear people. It was funny. I hear people in the crowd like, "Damn, that's a fireman. Look at that guy," And he can do everything to this day that's asked for, And the story behind that, it's my cousin's husband, and we just hit it off before he was a fireman, and he became a fireman. And I'm like, man, he made his way all the way up. So I seen him go from being a fireman to being a paramedic to being a lieutenant, a captain, a battalion chief, assistant chief, and then now back to battalion chief, and he's now on the union president. And he's the kind of guy I'd want. And like I said, Chief Leidig too. Two guys that amazing when they get up in front of people and they just draw people to like want to be a fireman.
Yeah, great answer. Yeah, it's okay to break the rule and do two. You're okay. Yeah, I don't know. Ruling says I don't really have like shit. Last one. Are you ready?
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
best part of the job?
Like we talked about before, I know we talked about it already, but I'm a firm believer that the best part of job is the guys and what we do around that kitchen table. That kitchen table is, someone said it in a previous one. You're going to hear the most belly laughter from anybody at that kitchen table. In the day room when we're watching TV together, when we're just training, it's the guys. I love the guys and how much fun we have together. I love being a part of the. Of like I think Theobald said it, part of the gang,
Yeah.
I've built some amazing friendships, like Danny Pasquarella, Alfredo Caballero, Brian Steen, who's now in South Metro in Colorado. Those are friendships that I'm never going to lose. And I know when I leave the fire service, those guys are my best friends. Tony McAllis from Lansing, Joe Lash from Lansing. Um, I built friendships that are brothers to me. These guys are brothers to me. And like I said, if I made a phone call right now and called any of them guys, I know that, they're going to be here for me. Even Chief Anasevich, who I'm glad you butchered his name because I love when people, but I can call him right now and be like, hey, Billy, I need something. And he's done it for me. He's done it for me. Joe Jones has done it for me. And it's the guys, it's the friendships you make. It's like I said, relationships create opportunities. And the relationships for me are friendships. I know it sounds, really business like, but they're all friendships to me. Nothing's better than being friends with Craig and Vitali, and asking them, hey man, I want to do a training. And it's not, you know, I don't know, Billy. It's, hey, I'll be there. And what I mean, but like when I did trainings with them guys, they had a junior guy, they had a probie, and I forgot his name, and I apologize, but we're working with them hand in hand every day. I just seen him the other day at a fire. He ran up to me, gave me a big hug. How you been? Where you been? And I'm like, that's what it's about, Alex. Is when you see somebody, and I shook your hand and gave you a hug. That's who I am. I'm a hugger. And I know when I go to retire, I'm gonna be that crier. But I want to end on one thing. I know we're gonna end it right now,
No, you're
but I
good.
want
You're good.
to end on one thing. We got to remember who's number one. When we're in the fire service, number one is our family. We have a tendency of forgetting who our number ones are. And for me, it's just my wife. We're unable to have kids, so it's just me and my wife, and that's all we have. And the days of when I'm away from work, or I'm at alts, or I'm at a class, you know what happens on them days, Alex? The freaking tree from next door falls on my house. The day I'm at work, the stupid dog who's blind runs after a skunk and gets skunked. The day that I'm at work, we have a snowstorm, and my poor wife is like, "What do I do now?" You know, we got to make sure our relationship with our wives and our families are strong. And this is a piece of advice I got, and it doesn't pertain to me, but I love what Ron Tubal said. Ron Tubal said, I go, Ronnie, man, you take a lot of time off in the summertime. What's up? He goes, well, my son, he's in this, and my daughter's in that. I'm like, that's awesome, dude. He goes, no, Billy, you need to understand. They're only 15 once. They're only two once. They're only born once. So you have to spend time with them. You have to be with them. You have to be a part of their lives. So we need to remember, and that's what I used to talk about in the new guy talk. Number one, we say we want family to be number one, and then the fire service number two. But sometimes them lines get blurred, and we switch them around. And it happened to me. I got super involved with the union. I wasn't home a lot. I was going on all these trips. I was going to trainings, and my wife reminded me that it's either them or us. Which one do you want? It's them or is it me? Who's number one? And I was like, oh, I had to reevaluate everything. And now it's remembering that my wife's number one, because what does happen when our dog gets skunked and it's only her here? You know what I did? I made phone calls. I called Alfredo Caballero's girlfriend. I'm like, by any chance, can you please help? Can you please help Erica? I'm there for you, Billy. I got you. Forge relationships, with your friends, forge relationships with like I said, with the people you work with, because they can help you out a lot too, because they understand how it is to be a fireman's wife or a fireman's husband. You and I, you started in the fire service and went on. I started as an electrician. So my wife knew it as 5 days a week. I'm home every weekend. Now I'm working, one day on 2 days off, or I'm working a double and I'm working one. Well, she wasn't ready for that. She wasn't ready for that. And we didn't have conversations about that. So have open lines of communication, talking to her, what do you need? What's going on? Hey, can I work this overtime? So we got to remember that family comes first, and without them we can't do what we do, because if we're worried about them when we're at work, we're not at work. So we need to make sure they have a support system going on at home, that you can make a phone call and someone will be there for you. Once again, the brotherhood. So we need to make sure our wives are good. Dude, I'm not lying, man. This neighbor's tree fell into my house, and my wife's like, what do I do? And it's like, I'm on the phone. I'm calling my neighbor. I'm calling the insurance company. Our basement. Our plumbing literally went to poop. So I'm stuck at work. What do I do? I'm making phone calls. I'm calling the contractor. The contractor tried to pull one on my wife and say, just sign here. My wife knows everything about contracts. She's like, I ain't signed nothing. You need to call my husband. And I was like, hey, what's going on? Well, this, and that. I go, no, no. And I go, this is what's going to happen. And in the end, it was still expensive, but we didn't get railroaded. But it was nice to have her father here helping us out too. So we have to have a support system. We have to find ways to make sure they're taken care of. But when I go to retire, that retirement day for me is not about me. It's about my wife. Because if it wasn't for my wife, I couldn't be who I am. I honestly couldn't because she dealt with everything that I had to do in terms of education and working 24/48 and being away for, 2 days straight. And I couldn't do that without her saying, hey, don't worry about it. I got it. Just worry about work. So when I retire, she's getting a bouquet of flowers. And I'm saying, God, this isn't about me today. This is about her. This is her day because now she gets me full time and hopefully she wants me full time. But it's to say that for me, from me to her, from the fire department, that thank you for what you're doing. Because without the wives' help, without the kids being there for you too, and family being there and our firefighter family being there, it's really hard for them to have or to do what they do. It's scary because yeah, something happens here and I'm not home. Who's going to help her? So we got to thank our wives. We got to put them number one. And we talked about it in class the other day. We got a high divorce rate. So let's see what we can do to not make the fire department number one sometimes. And make her be number one. And you know what? Just come home and talk to her. Come home and give her a hug, because or him or her. Because without them, we can't do our job. You know how it is, Alex. It's you got a loving wife that's there, with the kids, and you couldn't do your job if she wasn't there.
No.
And you're making it work because you're having them hard discussions with her. It was really hard for me because I was not good at hard discussion or hard talks, but you have to have that hard talk sometimes. And some days she's gonna beat on you a little bit, but sometimes we deserve it, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we're idiots. We're idiots. And when I was on Lansing, that's what happened with me in Lansing we were having fun, but I'm hanging out. I'm 30, 31 years old, hanging out with 21-year-olds, and they want to drink and party all day. And we had a 6 o'clock turnaround time, so I'd get off at 6 o'clock. We'd go get breakfast. Bar opened at 7 in town. We go to the bar, then we go to Joey O's house, start drinking there. And then I realized, man, I'm gonna end up divorced if I keep on doing this. So it's like I can't do that stuff,
Yeah.
you know. So let's make sure we continue to make number one home life, and make sure our families are taken care of, because we can't do our job without our wives' support, with our girlfriend's support, and vice versa, husbands, and if that's, what it is. But let's make sure we do that. Let's make sure they're taken care of.
I Yeah, I couldn't end it on anything better than that. You're spot on for sure. I told you we're gonna do great. Like you were all nervous. That's
Yeah,
gonna be
dude. I'm sweating right now, bro.
whatever. Uh,
I'm sweating.
that's 33 episodes. So thank you everyone for listening, and it's cool that you guys hung out with us this late. So Billy, thanks again for coming on. Hang out.
Alex,
We'll green room afterwards.
yes,
But yeah,
yes.
and
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everybody.
yeah, everyone have a nice night. We'll see you in the next one.